Councillor Maguire. Councillor McCamley. Councillor McDonough.
Here.
Councillor Mulligan.
Here.
Councillor Mulville. Councillor Murphy.
Here.
Councillor Newman.
Here.
Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Leary.
Here.
Councillor Onumera.
Here.
Councillor Quinlan. Councillor Quinn. Councillor Ryan.
Here.
Councillor Sheehan.
Here.
Councillor Shovlin. Councillor Smith. Councillor Tormey. Councillor Troy. Councillor Walsh.
Welcome to the County Council meeting of the 10th of March 2025 at 5 p.m. All mobile phones should be on silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being webcast. All members, please remember to switch off your microphone when you finish speaking. All members are reminded that the chamber is a non-smoking or vaping area. Standing orders will apply to all aspects of the meeting. Councillors are reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 92, that all members are bound to act in accordance with the ethics framework and the Code of Conduct for Local Authority members, to cooperate with the orderly conduct of meetings, the direction of the Mayor, and in a manner that is respectful of colleagues. Members have been circulated with the agenda for today's meeting, and any member forming the view that they have a conflict of interest in the matters or subject to today's agenda should now disclose the same. Councillors are also reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 93 that members must bear in mind that discussions at council meetings are not privileged. No member may make false statements, impute improper motives, or use offensive or unbecoming words in reference to any member of the council, employee of the council, or any other person. Any member having made such statements or used such objectionable words and not explaining or retracting the same or offering apologies for the use thereof when requested by the Mayor to do so shall be called upon by the Mayor to withdraw from the meeting. Members making any such statements or comments might find themselves personally liable for them. Before we start, I want to acknowledge the death of the former Fingal County manager Davy Byrne on the 2nd of March. And we'll just have a moment. Welcome to all the guests in the gallery. Item 1, confirmation and reaffirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on Monday the 10th of February 2025. Proposed councillor seconder. I'll second it. Seconded.
I don't know if you got an emergency motion. I wonder if you made a ruling on it.
Sorry, apologies. I received a number of emergency motions and they're all being ruled out of order. I would remind members of the standing orders where emergency motions have to be received by 10 o'clock in that morning. If members wish to change that standing order, then they can go to the, we can do so through the O&P. I can also comment on other matters in relation to them that I'm happy to any member who wants clarification on any other reason that might have impacted them. Apologies, I didn't get a chance to do so beforehand. Okay.
Since you've been elected, you've made decisions and you've always been fair, and I accept your ruling on that. Whilst I don't agree with it and don't like it, I accept that it's made with the integrity that you've shown in all the others.
Item 2, filling of casual vacancy on Fingal County Council following the election of Ruth Coppinger to the 34th Dáil in November 2024. And a seconder, seconded Councillor Mulligan. Agreed? Agreed. Well, we bring. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to fill item 3 before bringing them both in together, if that's okay. Item 3, filling up casual vacancy to Fingal County Council following the resignation of Councillor Kevin Humphreys.
I'd like to, on behalf of the Labour Group, I'd like to propose Mark Boland. Mark Boland lives in Lusk, community activist for the last 5 years, was very instrumental in the success of Lusk and Pride of Place, successfully brought together 15 local groups, wonderful achievement, and was a national winner. I'm delighted he's going to be joining the Labour councillor group in the council here, and I'm looking forward to working with him. Thank you.
Agreed? Okay, I'll invite them both to join us, and then I'll give them an opportunity to speak. I'll invite Councillor Redwood to speak.
Thank you. Just maybe some people might know me, but many won't. So just to perhaps say a few words so you see where I'm coming from. Obviously, I have big shoes to fill with, Ruth having moved on to the door. Whilst I'm new to the role of councillor, I'm certainly not new to community, trade union, political activism. I've been active for decades, more than I care to remember, hence the grey hair, both in the UK and in Ireland. I've been living in Ireland more than 25 years now, and during this time I've campaigned alongside Ruth, John here, Joe Higgins, on national, local issues such as the water charges, supporting the Debenham workers, campaign against domestic violence, repeal and so on, marriage equality. And perhaps one of the big campaigns I was particularly personally involved in was the campaign we waged in Castlecurragh to get the houses released from unjust management fees, which we felt was quite a groundbreaking success, actually, although not everybody might agree. But, we do live in uncertain and unpredictable times, and I think that means that we need strong, united communities to combat the steady replacement of public services with profit-driven alternatives, which we can see we can see the result with the crisis in housing, in health, education, welfare provision generally. And of course, all of that is reflected in our local communities, and that, as councillors, we need to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Just call time there, but I'll give you an additional 20 seconds just to finish
20
up.
seconds. Key point of central importance, I think, towards this end, is that we need to counter the poisonous divisions that are sown by the far right, who seek to scapegoat migrants, people of colour, minorities for all the problems that capitalism brings. So from this point of view, I'll do my level best to follow up on the issues that Ruth has already been campaigning on in the Castleknock area, and obviously on a wider basis as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Boland.
Good evening, Mayor, esteemed councillors, the Fingal Executive, Fingal County staff and members of the public. It's both an honour and a privilege to stand here today as I take up my role as a local councillor for the constituency of Rush Lusk, my home area, and I'm genuinely excited about the years ahead in this role. Can I also say that I'm very grateful for the trust and confidence that Deputy Robert O'Donoghue has placed in me when putting me forward for this role. His belief in my ability to represent our community has been deeply humbling, and let me assure you that I will take this responsibility very seriously. I'd also like to congratulate Deputy O'Donoghue on his recent appointment as a TD for Dublin Fingal West. Fingal is fortunate to have somebody so committed representing us in Dáil Éireann. Now, for those who don't know me, my name is Mark Boland. I'm proud to call Fingal my home. For 25 years, I've worked for myself within the Irish media industry, a role that has taught me the value of collaboration, creativity, perseverance and dedication. Alongside my professional career, I've always been deeply involved in my community, wherever I lived, whether playing, coaching, or leading local football and soccer clubs, or serving on the various community committees that I've done. I've always felt it was important to give back to the people and places that have shaped my life. I take great pride in being personable, approachable, hardworking and committed. And these are the values I intend to bring to this role. I'm eager to make a real impact for my community and work hard to deliver meaningful change. For much of my life, I thought politics was something that others took on, but as I became more engaged with the needs of our community, I realised that stepping forward myself was the best way to represent our voices and truly have them heard. As a representative, my goal is simple: to listen, to engage and to act. I intend to amplify the voices of the people within my community and tackle the issues that matter most to those residents. I believe in teamwork, and I know that this role is not about any one individual. It's about collaboration, and I look forward to working with my fellow councillors, regardless of political affiliation, as well as the executive and administrative teams in Fingal. I believe that we can continue
I'll give you an additional 20 seconds there as
real
well.
progress and continue building a thriving and inclusive community here in Fingal. Lastly, I want to thank my family, friends and everybody who has supported me recently. This moment is as much theirs as it is mine, and to the people of the constituency of Rush Lusk, you have my deepest gratitude and my promise to work tirelessly on your behalf. Gurad Míle Mála.
Thank you very much. On nominations, item 4, we'll take these one at a time. Item A, appointment of one member of the Climate Action, Biodiversity, Environment Strategic Policy Committee following the election of Ruth Coppinger to 34th Dáil in November 2024.
Councillor Helen Redwood.
Seconded. Agreed? Agreed. B, appointment of one member of the Regional Health Forum, Dublin North East, following the election of Ruth Coppinger to the 34th Dáil in November 2024. So, pardon? Sorry. Yeah, so there's no proposer for that? No. That position is open unless of another. Is there a seconder for Councillor Quinlan? Seconded, Councillor Boland. Have we any other nominations? I'll propose Councillor Boland. Seconded, Councillor Humphreys. Oh, sorry, it has to be from the Castleknock ward, apologies. I'll propose Councillor John Walsh. Seconded, Councillor Humphreys. So we'll... Well, I initially, sorry, need to be clear about where these are just, but I'll maintain Councillor Walsh's proposal, and we'll put up Councillor Walsh and Councillor Quinlan unless there's any other. Councillor Denison.
Nominees don't have to be from a particular electoral area, as long as they're from Fingal.
Mayor, just to clarify, the Regional Health Forum in Dublin North East, and it has 6 members, and currently our councillors Tormey, Denison, Camley, Carboni Mangan and Kitt.
So we can have nominations, but if Councillor Ryan is happy to have to withdraw his nomination, if anybody else is looking to come on to this, Councillor Walsh.
What else wants to go on?
Grant.
I propose Councillor O'Leary, please.
Seconded, councillor Walsh. Have we any other nominations? Okay, so we'll take the 3 nominations: councillor Walsh, councillor O'Leary. Councillor Walsh is withdrawing, so councillor O'Leary and councillor Quinlan are the 2 nominations. Sorry, I'll just clarify, it's councillor O'Leary is green, councillor Quinlan is red. Okay, so councillor O'Leary has won 29 to 2 abstentions. Item C, appointment of 1 member to the joint Fingal and South Dublin Liffey Valley Special Amenity Order SAAO Managing Committee to follow the election of Ruth Coppinger to 34th Dáil in November 2024. Yeah. So this is the 6 members of the Castleknock ward. So it's Councillor Gearan.
I understood it was always tradition when a member is replaced that the positions they held would automatically fall to the incoming member. I wonder who replaces them. I think I'm correct in saying that. In light of the fact that that's not happening, and there may be people who would have had an interest in some of these positions who haven't had an opportunity to speak to their colleagues, I wonder, could you defer these elections to maybe the next meeting?
I'm happy to put that to the floor for any position where we don't have where the person who's replacing isn't immediately going to replace them.
Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Just to say, Mayor, I think you actually mentioned this. As far as I can, that's automatically councillors from the Castleknock area, so that should, I think, be automatically Councillor Redwood.
Councillor Birchall.
That wasn't understood due to time constraints. We wanted to minimise the committees, etc. So, but if it is an automatic appointment, then we accept that.
So proposed.
Proposed, Councillor Redwood.
Seconded, Councillor Mulligan. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Item D, appointment of 1 member to the Local Traveller Accommodation Consultative Committee following the election of Ruth Coppinger to 34th Dáil in November 2024.
Opposed, Councillor Redwood.
Seconded, Councillor Mulligan. Agreed? All right. Item E, appointment of 1 member to the Housing Strategic Policy Committee following the appointment of Councillor Brendan Ryan to the chair of the Housing SPC. Seconded, Councillor Walsh. Agreed? Agreed. Item F, appointment of 1 member to the Fingal Coastal Liaison Group following the resignation of Councillor Kevin Humphreys.
Councillor Boland. Councillor Mark Boland.
And seconded, Councillor Johnson. Agreed? Agreed. Item G, appointment of 1 member of the North Dublin Regional Drug and Alcohol Task Force following the resignation of Councillor Kevin Humphreys. Proposed?
Proposed, Councillor Mark Boland.
Seconded, Councillor Humphreys. Agreed? Item H, appointment of 1 member to the Luss Town team following the election of Robert O'Donoghue to 34th Dáil, November 2024.
Seconded.
Seconded councillor Walsh. Agreed? Great, thank you. Questions, item 5, proposed. Questions 5 to 22. Seconded councillor Walsh. Agreed. Item 23, report of committees. A report of the Organisation, Procedures and Finance Committee OPNF held on Monday the 10th of February 2025. Can I have a proposer? I'll propose. Seconded councillor O'Brien. Item 23B, report of the Balbriggan Rush Lust Sword Services B Area Committee meeting held on Thursday, 13th of February 2025. Can I have a proposed councillor Quinn, seconded councillor Ryan. Item C, and this is a report of the Blanchardstown Mulhuddard Castlenar Onger Services A Area Committee meeting held on Thursday the 27th February 2025. There's an associated bylaw change here that has been proposed, so I'd like to get the bylaw put up. I'll need a proposer and a seconder for the bylaw, for the speeding bylaw. Proposed councillor Shovlin. Seconded councillor Walsh. And where's the resolution? Sorry. Oh, just of the resolution. Sorry, yeah. So the resolution is Fingal County Council in exercise with the powers conferred on it by the Section 9 of the Road Traffic Act 2004, number 44, 2004, as amended by Section 6 of the Road Traffic Act 2010, number 25 2010, and Section 2 of the Road Traffic Act 2010, number 21 of 2016, and following consultation with Garda Síochána, makes the following special speed limit bylaws 2025. Reduction of speed limits from 60 km per hour to 50 km per hour at Porterstown Road, Castleknock, Dublin 15. Detail approximately the west of M50 underpass the west junction with Rugged Lane, a length of 2.1 k, or from point A, coordinates IT. Yeah, so that's, is that agreed? Agreed. Item D, report of the Corporate Policy Group CPG meeting held on Monday the 3rd of March 2025. Proposed. Seconded councillor Dennison. Item E, report of the Howth Malahide Services B Area Committee meeting held on Wednesday the 5th of March 2025. Proposed councillor O'Brien, seconded councillor Tormey. And item F, report of the Blanchardstown Mulhuddard Castleknock Onger Services B Area Committee meeting held on Thursday the 6th of March. Sorry, who proposed? Proposed councillor Walsh, seconded councillor Carbone Mangan. Agreed? Agreed. Financial matters, item 24, annual report of the Audit Committee 2024. And Ms. Egan.
Thank you, Chair. This is the annual report. The Audit Committee is required to produce an annual report in accordance with 2014 regulations within 3 months of the end of the year of operation. And the report details the review of the Committee's activities during 2024. It also includes the annual work programme for this year. And again, they're obliged to prepare an annual work programme approved by yourselves. So happy to take any questions on it.
I've no speakers, so I'll propose that. Going to have a seconder for the Audit Committee. Second, councillor Humphreys. Agreed. Item B, Audit Committee Charter 2025. Is that for noting?
That's for approval as well.
For approval as well, sorry, yeah.
Thank you. The regulations state that the Audit Committee operate within a written charter which was reviewed annually by the Audit Committee and the local authority. And it just sets out the purpose of the committee, how it will undertake its functions, the composition of the committee and the reporting responsibilities, etc. So.
Agreed. Item 25, financial assistance to approve housing bodies under the Capital Assistance Scheme, call for CAS 2017 to provide units of living accommodation in the Fingal area. Yeah, are you going to speak on it, or no? It's just there. And they've been through the all area committees yet. So proposed and seconder. I have no speakers on it. Councillor Gearin, agreed? Agreed. Declaration of roads, no business. Item 27, proposed disposal of properties. A, notice of proposed disposal of land at the site of number 36A Yellow Walls Road, Malahide, County Dublin, to Colm de Burca and Judith de Burca. Proposed, Councillor O'Brien, seconded Councillor Tormey. Agreed? Agreed. Item B, notice of proposed disposal of land at Powerstown, Tyrrellstown, Dublin 15 to Apurva Charity. Proposed, sorry, yeah, but I'll just get a proposer first. Councillor Dennison, seconded Councillor Walsh, and first Councillor Troy.
We wish for this to be deferred. Before I begin, I wish to make it as clear as possible that we are in no way opposed to anything that the Apurva charity are building. We wish them all the very best in their project. This is the view of the Britannia community as well. We are entirely in favour of facilitating the provision of land to Apurva charity in the general location, and in accordance with the terms of agreement as set out in the provided documentation. We are of the opinion and concerned that full consideration of the likely impact on the overall proposal to dispose of the particular plot of land does not appear to have been fully considered. The proposed plot of land to be transferred to Apurva is adjacent to and abuts the property occupied by the Britannia community, who have already developed facilities for worship and other schooling structures on their site. They have now developed the lands available to them, but they have seen significant growth in their activities and are in need of additional space to provide for a growth in their school's population. We have not seen any report from the County Planning Office under Section 2112 of the Planning and Development Act 2000 and Article 2062 of the Planning and Development Regulations to support the disposal with abatement without obtaining the ministerial consent. We have no doubt that any report from the Planning Department would have or should have looked at the likely impact of the proposed development on adjoining properties, even outside the normal planning process, particularly in the context of the Fingal County Council's Religious Communities Master Plan of March 2020. I would therefore like to propose an amendment to Motion 27B to the effect that the plot of land as delineated be moved to the west of its current location, but still comprising of 2.78 acres. We, as a county council, defer the decision until a report on the likely impacts on adjoining development can be prepared by the planning department, so we as councillors can make our decision based on the fullest information available. We are of the firm belief that should the disposal proceed as proposed, it will be short-sighted in terms of optimising the use of these valuable council lands, as in the not-too-distant future, we may find ourselves looking for a new and separate site for the Britannia school expansion. Once again, and for the record, the Britannia community join us in wishing the Apurva charity the very best of success with their project.
So I have a proposal for this to be deferred. If we're going to defer it, I don't see the need for a long discussion, but is it agreed that we defer? So I propose that we have a vote on the deferral, unless anybody wants to come in to speak just on the deferral itself. I propose we have a vote on whether it's deferred or not, and then we can move on to the issue. Sorry, Councillor Walsh, you're speaking.
Mayor, I think what you're saying is this is purely on the deferral, and I'd like to oppose a deferral. I don't see any case for deferring it today. We've received all the documentation. A proposal has been presented. I think it would be very unfair to a PERV charity to defer any decision. As I understand it, a PERV charity have been in negotiations with the council for a number of months. I think 18 months to 2 years, in fact. A PERV are a local charity in Dublin 15. They represent a very large religious community and national community in the Dublin 15 area. Fully respect the work of the Britannia Church. You know, they have a fantastic facility there already. I don't think we should defer it. I'm quite happy to have a debate and to have the amendment debated, and I think members should have the opportunity to debate it today and to have the amendment debated, and I think we can make a decision on it today. Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Troy has proposed the deferral. Can I have a seconder for the deferral? Councillor Sheehan. Is there anybody who wants to speak just on the deferral, not on the substantial motion? Councillor Jennison.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a great deal of sympathy with what Britannia are trying to achieve here, but my concern is that deferring this will not achieve for them what they think it will, and that it will cause rifts between these two organisations who actually get along quite well. And the PERVA have been waiting a long, long time for this. And my concern is that if we defer it and go back to the drawing board, not alone will this site be put at risk, but other sites on those lands may be put at risk as well. So maybe the manager could tell us that sort of domino or possible domino effect. Because the site size that Britannia require is substantial. Their school has been very successful. It's a private school, and whether we agree with that or not, they have a demand for places in that school and for more land. And my concern is that by deferring this, that we won't be able to accommodate Britannia on the small amount of land that would be available to them.
I don't propose to bring the manager in on whether it's deferred or not. That's down to the members. Councillor Kieran.
So just a point of order. My understanding is this is a proposal for a disposal being brought before. Can that matter not go to a vote?
Sorry?
Can that matter not go to a vote?
Yeah, but first we have to vote. So first we have to vote on whether to defer it or not, and then after that it'll go for a vote.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry if it wasn't clear. So I propose to take a vote on whether this should be deferred or not. So green is to defer and red is to take the motion today. Okay? Two missing. So we have to do a roll call vote. Who's it got on it? Who's it got on it? Was it? Yeah, so, but we've 2 extra members. Well, if they've got to say yay and nay, then everybody has to. We can't do it. So, with the agreement of the meeting, we can either, and the 2 councillors involved, we can do a roll call vote for everybody, but it may be quicker to just call on the 2 members. But I think we'll do. Sorry, are you added in? Okay, great. Yeah. Well spotted, and thank you. This is the deferral vote, yeah.
The results of the vote are green, yes, 4, yellow, abstain 4, and red, no, 28.
So we'll take the item. So if anybody wants to come in on the disposal, if you press your button to come in. Councillor Birchall.
Thanks, Chair. Just to echo what my colleagues have said there, Councillor Walsh is correct that the process has gone on for 18 months to 2 years. But Apurva have been looking for a piece of land for a decade now, so a very long, drawn-out process. You know, the Indian community do not have a dedicated Hindu temple in Ireland, which I was surprised to learn. And this would be the site of their first one. You know, the Indian community who have contributed massively to our country, particularly in the health system and other vital societal functions. So I'd call on my colleagues to, you know, to vote for this transfer of property, disposal of property to go ahead today, and let the Apurva charity get on with their work of constructing a new temple. Thanks.
Councillor Humphrey.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to support the disposal of the property. And also, just the very fact that we're given a 50% abatement, I'd just like to make sure that during the pre-planning system and when the plan application goes in, that there is a wider community benefit as well. I know it's within the document. I know there's a 5-year kind of rolling kind of review on the rental agreement or the lease agreement, that just proper structures put in place, that although the Hindu community have a long tradition in Ireland as being open, inclusive, that we just have controls within our own structures, that there's a community dividend on this plot of land as well.
Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you. I'd like to support the disposal of land here. I do have sympathy with Britannia, and there are competing needs. However, Apurva have been looking for this for a long time, as my colleagues have said. There's also a lot of work has gone into getting us to the point we're at today, and I think it would be unfair of us not to agree to the disposal. Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to support the disposal of land. I think Apurva are a charity based in Dublin 15. As colleagues have said, they have an inclusive approach. and they have put a great deal of work into getting to this point. I think it would be a mistake to disrupt all of that work at this stage. I fully respect the work, the role and the work of the Britannia Church. I actually attended their opening there, along with many other councillors a few years ago. They play an important role in the community, but I think there is a huge gap in the lack of a Hindu temple and the lack of community space. I think it's important that, I noted point 1 said that it would serve both as a place of worship for the Hindu community and provide space and facilities for the Hindu community and the local community. And in fact, in any context I've had with the Purva, they've been very clear that any community facility would also serve the local community. And that's obviously very important in such a diverse area as Dublin 15. So I fully support this. I also think the abatement which is proposed is consistent with previous practice in similar situations. For example, the practice followed with the space for Britannia. So I fully understand the concerns that have been raised, but I think we should go ahead, and I think it's an important step forward in terms of providing for diverse communities in Dublin 15.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, not being a Dublin 15 councillor, I just have a couple of questions on this one. Well, look, first off, I think we're, we might need a discussion on the, I suppose, appropriate disposal of land in general. I'm just wondering, because I know there's probably dozens of different religious groups operating, particularly around the Dublin 15 area. So this is a disposal of a piece of public land to a religious group that's proposed here. So I'm just wondering if, what are the next steps beyond this individual one in terms of requests for council-owned land to be transferred to religious groups, if we've been approached by other religious groups, and what the plan is, because I think kind of passing this one, and I understand it has near unanimous support in amongst the Dublin 15 councillors. But what is the plan then beyond this for when other religious groups seek to purchase public land? Have we got one? How can we approve this and not approve the next one or the next 5 or whatever it might be? So thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Kitt.
Thanks very much, Mayor, and I fully support, as Councillor Walsh said there. I mean, they've approached us in the last 3 years nearly looking for a place of worship or a temple in Dublin 15. I know Britannica has a fine building there, and I attended that as well, and we also voted for them as well. But seeming that the temple is very important for the people in the area, and I think we should definitely go ahead with it, because as Councillor O'Brien said there, I mean, what will be next on the agenda? What other religious organisation will come next? So, but I think, as Councillor Walsh said there, it's important that the Indian community in Dublin 15 are looked after, and I fully support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think Councillor O'Brien made some very good points there in terms of the number of groups and communities that are looking for sites and places to have to meet for their communities. This is not just a religious issue, it's about communities being able to meet, just like Irish communities can meet in UK cities in their local GA clubs or their pubs, or in New York or wherever else. And these people who've come here, many of them have been headhunted here to work in our hospitals, our care industry, or high-tech companies. And they come and they struggle to find housing, they struggle to find their ethnic foods, they struggle to find places to meet. They're renting our school halls. A lot of them are going down to Scientology and Tala because they get it free there. But they shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to accommodate them in Fingal. And I'd encourage anyone to go and see what Britannia have done over in Powerstown. They've built a 1,500-seater auditorium that is bigger than the one in DCU. and they fill it. And Apurva, even though Hindu temples operate separately, they want to have a place where they can meet, where they don't have to hire hotels or schools. And when they came to us first, the price they were paying for this now is multiples of what they would have got for it, or got it for back in 2010 or 2014. And at that time, there were 4 other groups who had got together with a local estate agent who had laid out a plan, a vision that they thought we were working with them on. And partly because of church fields being developed, that had to be put on the back burner. So they've been waiting a long time for this. And, you know, so it's not just about religion or that. There's more to it than that. It's about providing for the new communities that are here, that have bought houses, that have children going to our schools, and they want places to meet. Not just for their own communities, but for the whole community, because they want to bring people in to see Bollywood dancing, to show off their concerts. And they've been doing it up until now. Thank you.
Councillor Mulville.
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly to support the proposal, as other councillors have said from the Dublin 15 area. I mean, if you look historically, the local authorities and other public bodies transferred huge amounts of land in the past to the Catholic Church to provide community centres, schools, for example. Sadly, a lot of that land's been monetised now and sold off by the Catholic Church for profit across the city and county. But more recently, of course, this council helped facilitate the Swords Baptist Church build a fantastic RIASC centre in Feltram on council land. So I think it's really something we should be supporting, and also other churches. For example, I know the Presbyterian Church in Donaghadee have long been looking for a site and strongly support their wishes to have a site as well. So I think certainly this is part of what the council has been doing over the years, and we should continue doing it where appropriate, in line with all the rules and regulations. Thanks very much.
Councillor Quinlan.
Thanks, Chair. So, approve a charity, I mean, probably hazard a guess where I'm sitting on this, so I want the disposal of land to not go ahead. I think it's funny as well that the council is happy to take an abatement, bringing it down to €425,000 at a time when we're told cost of living, the money for public services is tight. In fact, here a couple of weeks ago, we had lots of councillors looking to push the local property tax up to 15% to try and shake out a couple of extra euro. I think a few councillors used the turn of phrase of, it's only the cost of a cup of coffee every week. But yeah, I think that's ridiculous that the council is willing to give a 50% abatement. And then as well then, to actually another one to echo another one of the councillors' comments here as well, it's the precedent that's going to be set, and by giving abatements on public land to religious organisations. And then is it a case that the council is going to have to draw up and start imposing a number on the amount of disposals that's going to be given? I mean, if it was up to me, it'd be 0, but sure, look, I'd like to put it to a vote anyway when it comes to that.
Councillor Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, I support the motion, but I just have the same concerns as Councillor Ryan there. You know, it's a precedent probably, well, maybe it's already been set before, but certainly is now. And I'm aware of other organisations, religious within a bigger religious organisation, who have desires and designs to acquire land. So I think this will be good news for them. Thanks.
Councillor Leddy.
Thank you. Yeah, look, just one brief comment. I would like to hear from management a bit more about the reasoning behind the abatement. It's just not something I'm aware of or something I've come across before, and I'd like to know if it's kind of government guidelines or if it's simply coming from the two departments that are authored here, economic enterprise, tourism, cultural development. Just don't know much about it, don't know where it comes from, don't know what the source of it is, and I'd like to hear from management on it. Thank you.
Councillor Redwood.
Well, I think that I support the disposal. You know, points have already been made about how Apurva is seeking this development that they're seeking, or the land that they want to build on is to create a community resource, not just for religious use, not that that matters, but it's important that communities have places to come together and share, you know, their culture, their religion, social needs, and also, as has been said, that you know, they operate in a very inclusive way. And I think it's a disgrace, really, that Councillor Quinnan's picking on a group who've been campaigning and working with Fingal Council.
Sorry, Councillor. I'm not allowed. I don't remember it as being in that way. It's not given.
Okay.
Sorry, that's not how I heard it, but I'll pay attention a bit more in future. I didn't hear it that, so I'm not reading it that way. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Through the chair, but I wasn't directing it directly at Councillor Quinlan. It was a comment. But as far as I understand it, abatement of this kind is not unusual to community groups, to charities, and so on. So it's not about creating a precedent as far as that goes. But I think that if we look at the picture, you know, Fingal Council and particularly Dublin 15 is an extremely diverse community. We need to cater for our whole community, not just certain sections. There's, you know, many people from India living in Ireland today, particularly not least in our area. And of course, there's many faiths amongst this community. It's not just one faith. And, you know, people who'd be using this community resource have been living here a number of decades, living and working, often in many essential services and so on. They're part of our community. And, you know, as far as this abatement concerned, I don't think community groups should have to pay the same rate as the commercials concern. So I support this disposal.
Thanks. Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, I'd just like to briefly support the proposed disposal. Abatements aren't unusual, usually to community groups, maybe schools, I'm not sure, not schools, but anyway, I've seen it before. Yes, it's normal practice. My former colleague, Councillor Poonam Rani, was working on this proposal when she was here. It's been going on a good while. There's been plenty of chats, plenty of negotiations, and certainly wouldn't want to derail it now, and I think it's an excellent proposal. Remembering all the people who from India or wherever, who now are Irish nationals, by the way, and work everywhere you can think of in our community. I won't list them all, but also remembering the Irish centres over in London. They're facilitated over there, and all across England and other places. So, like, I think it's a good idea. We have to try and help various communities continue with their culture and integrate into our society, and they're going to do that by sharing this facility. So I support the motion to dispose of this property. Thank you.
Councillor Sheehan.
Thank you. Yeah, well, in relation to the abatement, I fully support the abatement for approval. I think that any of these groups, they're not just bringing, it's not all about the money, it's about the social aspect, the spiritual aspect, which they're bringing. And we know, or I know firsthand, the Indian community have been bringing so much, and the charity have been trying for so long to get a place. I know the difficulty they have in trying to rent halls across the country. And we can only look at their neighbours, future friends in the community, in the Britannia Church, and to see that the pillar of the community that they've been for generations in Ireland, which has been recognised by the Taoiseach, by diplomats, by local politicians, by Fingal County Council itself. Their service is an essential service to their community, our community. You only have to look at their Feed Dublin campaign, which is feeding over 700 people every couple of months. They've free counselling services, they've music for over 300. What we're looking for is that the community work together, that this has the potential to grow and should be encouraged, and that the community should work together on that.
Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Mayor. I strongly welcome the proposal to dispose this piece of land to Apova. However, I think my comment is to dispel any notion that, you know, that the two issues are mutually exclusive, or parallel to each other. I personally, I think it's pretty unfortunate that the two seem to, be put side by side in sense of which one should come first. I think the two proposals are very relevant. We're talking about a community facility here, proposed to be built in a campus, where any community group can access, similar to, what we have there currently, for Britannia. An excellent facility which, a lot of community groups have been able to use. So I would love to see a situation where a new motion is moved for Britannia to get a facility for, to improve and continue to develop their educational need. I think that is very, very important. However, I don't think that should be dependent on whether or not Apova get this disposal of land, which is an excellent proposal as well, because it is there to serve the community and to create that cohesion and integration and inclusion that we want to see in Fingal, which obviously is a land of welcome. So I personally would like to see another motion to support Britannia getting a piece of land to, improve and develop their educational needs, and not necessarily to tie it to the disposal of land to Apova. Thank you.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks, Chair, and I'm going to support the disposal of land. I think we all have learned over the years, and I suppose even in our workplaces or most workplaces, you talk about intercultural awareness and just understanding different cultural norms, values amongst everyday life and everything we do, and worship is a massive part of that. And so many people from various cultures with different norms and values and views on the world integrate so well and provide so much services to society in Ireland as a whole. And there are so many communities of various ethnicities and faiths in Fingal and in this country who are looking for facilities like mosques and other facilities for places of worship, and anything this council can do for ethnic minorities and other community groups, they do, and they do a fantastic job. And I think anyone talking about abatement measures should look at how public procurement is done on public land for public bodies, from community centres to primary schools to other bodies which have a purpose and provide a community infrastructure. The abatements is very common in that situation, and it's common enough if you do the research. So, I mean, I think we are well informed here, but we should also know the rules and regulations of how these things work. And I fully support it, and thanks to Council for progressing something which clearly took a long time and a lot of resources. Cheers.
I'll ask Mr. Quinlivan to come in just to answer some of the questions that have been raised, and it might be good to give, if there are instances where abatements have been given in similar places to this, and then the impact of any change to this site in relation to the moving of the land would have on, if we were to refuse this to try and come up with an alternative proposal, any impact on any other projects in the area. I'm very much minded to support this disposal.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, members. I think, Mayor, an awful lot of the questions that were raised were addressed through opinion by the members. Certainly, Councillor Mulligan and O'Leary and others are right. This is something that we do, I won't say regularly, but from time to time. You asked for examples. Britannia is an example. The Reaccessor is an example. There was also an example outside of the religious context for Prosper Fingal last year in Malahide, where an abatement was given for a site that was disposed to them. Councillor Leddy asked about the source of this power to abate, and it is provided for in legislation in the Planning and Development Act. And there is generally an obligation to seek consent from the minister, but where a local authority is satisfied through a particular assessment of economic and social impacts of the particular site, then it's not necessary to do so. So that's why we have not got the ministerial consent. There is a process set out. The assessment that's required is on the economic or social impacts of the proposed development on the site to be disposed of, and we have conducted that. The report on it was circulated to the members with the notice for the disposal, and if members have any questions on that, we're happy to ask or happy to answer them. The question raised by Councillor Troy about the need for the chief or the county planning officer to sign off on this. This is not a planning assessment at this point. This is an economic and social assessment. The county development plan provides for this use under the zoning of the site, and a more detailed planning assessment will be conducted once a detailed development proposal is developed and brought in either for pre-planning or submitted as a planning application. So that's the point at which the detailed planning assessment takes place. Councillor Humphreys asked about the guarantees around community uses and the community value going forward. Obviously, it's subject to the usual planning assessments. So the planning department on that development proposal will apply the usual rigour. But members, you'll know that we don't generally dispose of title in full. We do these by long leases, and those leases are conditioned. So one of the conditions of this disposal will be that local community is facilitated through use of the site and the facilities developed on it. And we will always then have the power under that lease to initiate reviews, to conduct, we'll have an ongoing relationship with APARVA to ensure that those community uses are delivered on. And if it's not happening, the members will let us know, I'm sure, and we can raise it then under the lease because there is that relationship. Councillor O'Brien, the policy position, the development plan sets out objectives around making sure that we encourage and promote and facilitate religious expression within the county. It's obviously silent on land ownership because it always is, but there's never been a policy in Fingal that we wouldn't dispose to religious organisations, and the history shows that we have done in the past. There's maybe a policy debate for yourselves to have. It sounds like there might be something open to debate there. But you did ask about what other requests there are. We have quite a number from religious and non-religious. We have a huge amount of demand for community infrastructure in the county. It all seems to need to be located on council-owned lands, and we do not own the kind of quantum of lands that would accommodate all of these competing requests. The request from Britannia was originally for a hectare, which is in or around the size of the APARVA site. We understand that may have come down somewhat, but there is a school designation on this community infrastructure zoning out there already, and we're trying to work with the Department of Education to ensure that public school provision happens to accommodate the Churchfields development, which is across the road, and that would be the priority for us rather than a private school to be developed by Britannia. Members should also know that there's an Educate Together school just right beside on the other side of Britannia, which is on site at the moment and under construction. And just the suggestion of moving the APARVA site to accommodate Britannia, the knock-on effect of that would be that we have heads of terms agreed now with the HSE for a disability day service to be developed on the other side of the APARVA site. If that was to be moved, there are constraints on that site. So, for instance, there is a row of protected trees along the edge of the site. There is an access issue in terms of accessing from the Damastown Road because the Porterstown Road can't accommodate the kind of traffic that would be needed. So any suggestion around even a move of maybe 10 metres across would have significant probably impacts on that HSE proposal, and we'd have to go back and renegotiate with them. In a situation where we have not had an agreement with Britannia about whether say for argument's sake, the 10-metre strip would suit them, whether they'd be willing to pay even an abated rate, whether it could be accommodated within their site and the overall plan. And in an event where we weren't able to reach agreement, shifting of the site might sterilise a piece of public land in such a way that nobody might ever be able to use it. So there's a lot that's relevant there. But look, just coming back to the abatement question again, the abatement is about the economic and social impacts and contribution that the proposers and the people to be disposed of. It is not related to council fines or the revenue budget of the council. This would come in as a capital fund. And really, it's about the assessment of the public good and the greater good as opposed to the impact on the revenue budgets of the council. So again, look, this is a reserved function of the members. It's a matter for the members to accept the recommendation, to go with the notice, to make whatever decision the members think is appropriate. But we have done our assessment and we've issued the notice based around recommendations that this disposal should happen and that it should happen at the abated rate. So let's leave it over to the members.
Is the abatement agreed? No. Roll call or vote. Oh, sorry, the disposal. Apologies. I'll try that again. Is the disposal agreed? No? Okay, we'll have a vote, please.
The results of the vote are green, yes, 28, yellow, abstain, 5, and red, no, 1.
So that's carried. Item C, 27C, proposed disposal of fee simple interest of dwellings. Didn't think it's going to take an en masse, can we? Or do we? Yeah. Proposed, Councillor Gearan. Seconder? Second. Councillor Mulville, you want to speak? Yeah. Seconded, Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks, Chair. I just have a question about 8 Magenta Crescent Santry, Golden Key Property Investments Limited. Just want to know what's kind of going on there. I assume 8 Magenta Crescent was a former council dwelling that was sold to this couple under the tenant purchase scheme many years ago, and now is being sold to a property investment fund. I just think it's hugely concerning that a family home has been monetised, has been turned into a property asset, as it's being sold on to Golden Key Property Investments, wherever they are, and we're seeing a lot of that actually in recent years, and it's hugely concerning, and certainly I'd have serious concerns about that. Thanks, Chair.
When we're going through the ground rent disposal process, we don't generally the amount of information that we receive in terms of the details of the applicant that you're requesting wouldn't be sought as part of that process. It's a legal transaction in terms of the acquisition of the ground rent. So whether it's a company or an individual or a couple or a family or whatever, it's not something that's relevant to the actual disposal.
Are those disposals agreed? Agreed. Item 28, the extension of the Dublin Airport Local Area Plan 2020. Mr. McAleese.
Thanks, Mayor. Patricia has a short presentation for the members.
I can move on to item number 29 if this is going to take a... Great.
Good evening, members. Apologies for the delay. This is a short presentation in relation to proposal to extend the duration of the Dublin Airport LAP. Just the next slide there, please. The Dublin Airport LAP was adopted on the 9th of December 2019 and came into effect on the 6th of January 2020. Just to reiterate that significant research and stakeholder engagement occurred in preparing the document, and it included a number of different chapters, policies and objectives relating, for example, Chapter 3, Forecasts and Capacity Constraints, Chapter 4, Vision and Strategic Objectives, Chapter 6, for example, Economic Impact of the Airport, Chapter 7, Airport Infrastructure, Chapter 8, crucially, Surface Access and Transport, and Chapter 9, Environment and Community. In terms of the legislative requirements, the procedure process that's been brought to you today relates to the extension of the life of the Dublin Airport LAP, and provision is made under Section 19 of the Planning and Development Act 2000 as amended for this process. And it's the procedure that has been brought before you in the past on a number of local area plans throughout the county. Section 19 of the Planning and Development Act provides for the extension of the life of the local area plan, and under Section 19(1)(e), a local area plan cannot lawfully be extended absent an opinion from the Chief Executive to the effect that inter alia the plan remains consistent with the objectives and core strategy of the relevant development plan, and that the objectives of the local area plan have not been substantially secured. And just briefly, with regard to Section 19(1) of the Planning and Development Act, subject to paragraph E, not more than 5 years after the making of the previous local area plan, a planning authority may, as they consider appropriate by resolution, defer the sending of a notice under Section 23A(1) and publishing a notice under Section 23A(2) for a further period not exceeding 5 years. So, in terms of Part E, no resolution should be passed by the planning authority at such time as the members of the authority have notified the Chief Executive of the decision of the authority to defer the sending and publishing of the notices, giving reasons therefore, and sought and obtained from the Chief Executive an opinion that the local area plan remains consistent with the objectives and core strategy of the relevant development plan. Part 2, that an opinion that the objectives of the local area plan have not been substantially secured. And 3, confirmation that the sending and publishing of the notices may be deferred and the period for which they may be deferred. And importantly, the notification of a resolution under paragraph E shall be published by the planning authority in a newspaper circulating in the area of the local area plan not later than 2 weeks after the resolution is passed, and notice of the resolution shall be made available for inspection by members of the public during the office hours of the planning authority and made available in electronic form, including by placing the notice on the planning authority's website. So the report that you will have been furnished sets out how the compliance with those elements of the Planning and Development Act that I've just read there. So in the manner in which we feel that the objectives of the plan have not been secured, and that the plan remains consistent with the core strategy of the Fingal Development Plan and with the objectives therein. Importantly then, that the notice of the resolution, should it be passed by yourselves this evening, will be published by the Planning Authority in a locally circulating newspaper not later than 2 weeks following the decision. The statutory provision allows for the extension of the life of an existing LAP for a further period not exceeding 5 years. So just we'll leave it on this page, but this is the resolution which would be passed by yourselves and which would give effect to the extension of the local area plan. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks, Chair. Mayor, sorry, I didn't get to attend the briefing on this last Thursday evening, so apologies. But I know members of the ward and St Margaret's local area group have raised concerns about extending the LAP in terms of the impact on the airport, in terms of the environmental standards, and the actual LAP being based off noise contours, flight paths, which are not currently in operation and have never actually been in operation since the LAP has been introduced, because obviously the LAP was introduced as a prerequisite to the actual the planning being complete and the runway being operational as one aspect of the LAP in terms of its wider view on the community. But I do think that, and I've been informed that maybe we'd need to do an environmental assessment in terms of the SEAI Directive 2001 from a European level in terms of the changes to the environment and impact on the environment, furthering an LAP which doesn't meet the current standards and current environment which it's enshrined in legislation to do. Dublin Airport has a few material contraventions to the planning at this moment in time, which are subject to High Court rulings. Some of those contraventions are in contravention to the LAP. On board Penala's own inspector confirmed the same, that they don't match 2007 approvals. And, you know, I think we need to ensure that in the first part, the noise zones represented and in the LAP are accurate, ensure that they're accurately represented and enforced based on what Dublin Airport are doing, and just to hold them accountable for the planning permissions and structure in which they're governed under, first and foremost, and just to have very stringent legal compliance, environmental responsibility for what the LAP is for, is ultimately community protection. And I think we should just look for a bit more transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Councillor Healy.
Two questions, I suppose. The first is what happens if we don't pass this resolution. From looking at the legislation that we've been referred to, it seems to me that we then have that the plan continues in force, and we then have another year within which we have to make a decision whether or not, issue a notice whether or not to make, amend or revoke a local area plan to replace it. And it seems that it would continue in force until we do, if that's what we decide to do, if we decide to amend it or to produce a new one, and we embark on that process, that it would then continue in force until that's done. So just for clarity on that as to what the consequences would be if we don't agree to this today. And secondly, I suppose, is the concern, and Councillor Mulligan's referred to it already, that we have a local area plan with noise zones which were put into the local area plan and put into our county development plan on good faith, based on the planning application that was made for the North Runway. And it's now become evident that those noise zones are incorrect because the flight paths in the North Runway planning application are not being used, or they're not being followed. And the noise is affecting our communities differently to what was predicted. And I'm concerned that, you know, if we would extend for 5 years, an LAP containing noise zones which we know are wrong. And I'd like to know, what is the process whereby what process we will embark on to amend those noise zones to correct them, and whether that's envisaged or whether it is envisaged that we would simply extend the plan and not amend the noise zones. Thank you very much.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of the points that Councillor Healy and Councillor Mulligan have said. What I'm wondering alongside this is the domino effect for the local area. Do we need to look at the local area plan that covers Rivermead and St Margaret's area as well as a knock-on effect if we're going to extend this beyond that? I'm right in thinking that's nearing the end of its 6-year cycle. Correct me if I'm wrong, or whether or not that needs to be looked at in kind of conjunction to this. Thank you.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, my concern is that if we don't extend this LAP, and let's face it, we extend LAPs all the time, particularly large ones. If we don't extend this, then it runs out, and we have no local area plan for the airport. And so therefore, all the things that we have worked on and contained in this don't have to be taken into consideration in any new planning applications. And, let's face it, we're under severe pressure with our planning department as it is, just like every other local authority, in trying to complete LAPs. And if they have to sit down now and work on another LAP for the airport, then I fear there will be consequences for our other LAPs like Dunsink. We have a list of priority LAPs from our development plan. And there will be knock-on effects on providing housing for over the next few years. So I'm really concerned that if we don't extend this, that everybody's going to suffer.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, no, similar to the other speakers, I suppose, yeah, I suppose, yeah, we covered this a lot on the meeting, the briefing we had, but my understanding is if we let this lapse, well then we've a year to go on it and then there's no rules. And yeah, I believe we do need to extend this LAP. We do need to have something in place to be able to hold Dublin Airport to account. We're discussing all the times the various planning applications they have, the various breaches we're chasing after, but we spent a lot of time on this LAP. It was very detailed, yeah, and we either let it lapse or we renew it because, yeah, as Councillor Dennison said, we've a backlog from LAPs. The councillors that were here during the development plan will remember that. We'll remember the number of LAPs that we're trying to get them on a priority list. We all had our own favourites that we wanted to try and get done sooner rather than later. There was loads of motions trying to get LAPs done in the first half of the council rather than the term of the council. So there is a backlog. I think when we have an LAP here that we can extend for 5 years, we should. There are others we generally extend when we get to this stage, but yeah, I think we need to have this LAP extended. We need to have rules in places. We need to have any documentation we can, any LAPs we can in place to hold the DAA to account. Sorry, Dublin Airport to account. Thank you.
Councillor Gearan.
Yeah, I mean, if this is adopted or not, I'll comment after the event, but I do think it's very important to realise that in the last number of months, we have been able to refer to our local area plan to highlight the inadequacies and to highlight the misinformation and to highlight the lack of expertise in the way they prepare applications. We have always been able to rely on the LAP, and I think we would nearly be playing into the hands of those who want to put misinformation into the public arena. We've been proven to be correct in the way we're handling the sound issue and the noise control. The European Commission came out last week and hammered Schiphol, or however you pronounce it, airport, for not doing the proper assessments, and they hammered our sister to ANCA because they didn't look for the information that we are looking for and that we are being criticised on. And all these things form part of our LAP, and what our other colleagues want to look at and have examined and have done, that can be done in tandem without being under the huge pressure of trying to prepare an LAP in 12 months or 18 months' time. So I really think it's important that we accept this and extend this LAP for 5 years or whatever period is deemed necessary. It may not be the full 5. Thanks.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to support the comments made, requesting that the LAP be extended. It's important that we keep, we'll call it the regulation and rules in place, that the LAP put on the record that any planning application has to comply with. And there's a wish list there of things that should be done. Should any planning application go forward or go ahead, there are certain things in the LAP that would, how to put it, facilitate an application being successful. And one of them is the Western Link Road. And the Western Link Road needs to be built. And the government need to build it, and they should build it now. And I understand the price tag for that is 60 million. But more important, the insulation of the homes of the people around the airport that are affected by this, by the noise zones that currently designate them as entitled to compensation and insulation grants, and those outside that noise zone who are under the change in the flight path also need to be compensated, included, and insulated now, right now, not waiting for 2 or 3 years while the planes continue to fly overhead. I welcome the announcement, like I got an email, you know, one of these PR sort of newsletter things from DAA saying they're going to do 400. Great. Well, what about doing the rest of them? I mean, why are we waiting? Why do the people have to suffer? It's not tenable that they have to suffer, and they should be insulated now. And if anyone wants to avail of it, buy it. But that's our national asset. We have billions sunk into it. It's in a mess. The people need it sorted who are suffering, and the airport needs to be sorted for the economic good of the county. And this LAP will help us on the road to do that.
Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Chair. And again, I'd like to offer my support and concur with my colleagues. I think it's imperative that we have an LAP in order to give us a level of comfort with regard to any applications that go in, and making sure they adhere to the LAP and the constraints within that. However, I would like to hear from the Executive with regard to the future opportunity to look at delivering some of the elements of change that have been discussed before with regard to noise issues, etc. So to just have a carte blanche to go for another 5 years, I don't think will be the right way to go forward on this. I think we need to look at a realistic time frame. I'm not looking for a big commitment, but some indication as to when we actually have the capacity in-house in order to make the changes that are necessary in this. But I have no problem whatsoever in supporting the extension of the LAP in that context. Thank you.
Councillor Newman.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I attended the briefings, and I asked quite a number of questions that was answered, and I was quite happy to offer my support to the extension of the LAP. I've since had a letter from the St Margaret's Ward with regard to an SCA, extension of an SCA, that there's concerns that maybe it's not legal to extend the plan, but I'm sure the manager will comment on that. There's a lot of flux up at Dublin Airport and lots of things happening there, and I think it's really important that we take a step back to the local area plan that we have, and let's see and extend it to work on what was in there, what was supposed to be adhered to, and I think it'll give us backup for any legal cases that are coming up for us to put points forward with regards to, the flight paths that are not as they were promoted by the DAA. I don't know how much of that's in the local area plan, but I certainly feel that the existing LAP is probably the best chance we have is to fight off the unauthorised flight paths. Thanks.
Councillor Boland.
Thank you. When we discussed this 5 years ago, I had my doubts and I abstained from the voting in favour of the adoption of the LAP. And whilst I still have doubts, I'm equally convinced that to not extend this LAP would be the height of folly and would be flying in the face of common sense. It's quite clear that the LAP has indeed provided the framework and the protection of the planning system. And it is important that we stay firm and committed to a roadmap which delivers sound, sensible decisions. It is up to others to submit appropriate applications. We, in my view, are at a stage where to abandon the LAP would be the height of folly. And it simply is not a sustainable position to take, because if we remove the LAP and all the benefits that it provides in the control of planning, we leave it open to fly-by-nights, the cowboys of the airways, to run amok across the planning system. We cannot allow that to happen. We are constantly in a position of attack by the DAA in an effort to sully and spoil the reputation of this council. Why? Because we are holding them to account to deliver realistic, fair and just planning applications. This LAP allows us to continue our firm commitment to ensuring good planning, and in turn that delivers for the community of North Dublin. I'm now in favour of this plan and I ask you to support it.
Councillor Humphreys.
I don't think I could say it better than Councillor Boland, so I'm going to leave him at the last word.
From my own point of view, before the manager comes in, I just want the manager to confirm that by extending it for 5 years, there's still the option of renewing it before that if it comes in. I share this LAP, just like our development plan, in my view. No plan is perfect. It was voted on by the members. There are things about it I would like to see change, particularly in relation to WHO noise protections. I have concerns about the way that our national planning framework and our development plan and our LAP treat climate change and treat the airport in relation to that. However, it is reasonable and normal to extend LAPs. They were agreed by the council previously, and I also share the concerns that the removal of an LAP will make the situation worse, not better. So I'll ask the manager to come in and reply to the points made.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, members, for all your comments. I just want to point out that the last local area plan for the airport was back in 2006, and in the intervening period between this local area plan and the last one, there was significant change in national aviation policy, national planning policy, and regional planning policy. That change has not happened since 2020. There has been no change in the aviation policy and nothing material at either national or regional policy. So the local area plan that we did back in 2020 and that you adopted back in 2020 is as relevant today as it was back then. And I would argue it's even more relevant today as we assess two major planning applications from the DAA, which is an increase from 32 to 36 and from 32 to 40 million. As a number of the members have pointed out, the local area plan is the most powerful policy tool that we have available to us. A lot of the policies within the local area plan are captured and copied into the development plan, but a lot of the detail, and particularly the detail around surface access, are not contained within the development plan. And it's that policy vacuum that would be created without a local area plan is the key reason why I would make the argument today that we would extend it beyond the 5 years. Just in relation to the noise zones, The noise zones were reviewed as part of the last local area plan, but they are not part of the local area plan. The noise zones are actually part of the development plan. So they were reviewed when we did the last local area plan, but then they came into the development plan as a variation. The other significant change that's happened since the last local area plan is the establishment of ANCA, the airport noise regulator. And obviously, we would we would rely on their expertise in relation to airport noise, in relation to the noise zones, and if and when the noise zones need to be updated. But they can be updated at any stage. They are not tied to this local area plan. I just want to make that point. They are part of the development plan, and if they need to be changed at a point in the future, they can be changed at any time by a variation. But as I say, we would be reliant on the expertise of ANCA to inform us on the noise zones. Just in relation there's some comments there just in relation to other local area plans, Rivermead and St Margaret's. They are subject to separate processes. They wouldn't be related to the local area plan. And I'm going to pass over to Patricia just to give you some reassurance around the SEA and the AA that was carried out as part of this process.
Thank you, Pat. Yes, in the local area plan was subject to SEA and to AA. So AA's appropriate assessment screening was conducted, and a full strategic environmental assessment was conducted, subject to SEA assessment in accordance with Directive 2001/42 EC. As part of the report that we have furnished to you, we have asked our consultants to also review both the AA screening and the strategic environmental assessment that was conducted. And you'll see that in Appendices 1 of your report in Table 1, which provides a screening of the proposal to extend the duration of the Dublin Airport Local Area Plan for the requirement of SEA in accordance with Schedule 2 of the Planning and Development Regulations 2001 as amended. So this takes you through the screening for SEA in accordance with Schedule 2, and it's set out there in Table 1. So we have been mindful of that in preparing the report, and again, our consultants have reviewed that in detail, including the implications of extending the duration of the plan.
So I have a motion on in relation to this topic from Councillor Mulligan. I'm going to rule it out of order just in terms of this discussion, and I'll explain that to Councillor Mulligan separately. I think it's a review is a separate issue. So there's a request for a review by the Chief Executive of the LAP.
There's a request by the member, a review, but ask elected members to approve a review. To ask the elected members to approve a review here and now. That review can be approved by way of ordinary motion at any council meeting, and I'll happily support it. But the issue that I'm interpreting here now is what we're actually discussing, irrespective of whether the LAP is extended or not extended. That review can be requested, or that procedure can be assessed, similar to a variation in relation to that. So I'm going to rule it out of order because it's not tightly enough. Well, I'll have to go through the standing orders, but if it's not relevant to the motion, it's not directly. I'm ruling it out of order. Thanks, Councillor Mulligan. I'll do that separately, Councillor Mulligan, but we're not going to. I'm ruling it out of order. Okay. Thanks. I've made my ruling. Councillor Healy.
Yeah, good morning, the Mayor. My first question wasn't answered, which is what happens if we don't do this today?
Sorry, Councillor Mulligan.
Just on a point of clarification, I fully want the LP to continue. I've seen the consequences of areas not have local area plans. I do think we should have the confines to review it. That was the point I made in my original speech, and that's the only thing I wanted to ask within the time frame before it ends in 2026.
Thanks, Mayor. So the decision has to be taken at this full council meeting to extend it. It has to be taken within the period of 5 years. If If it's not extended, then it lapses in January of next year, January 2026. So we have no local area plan in place beyond January 2026, unless the decision today is taken to extend it. We are recommending that it's extended by the full 5 years, which would bring us up to January 2030. At any stage during that time, it can be revoked. So we're recommending 5 years, but if the members feel that it needs to be not run its full length, then that can absolutely be done as well.
Councillor O'Mary.
Mayor, just to contribute to the subject, I think I'm fully in support of an extension. However, I do agree with all the comments to have a review. I've personally been involved with a lot of very important issues affecting, residents in the Dublin Airport area in general, especially all the areas around the airport, and especially St. Margaret's. And I think it's very important for us to have a look at the issues affecting them, the airport noise, the noise pollution. I think it's a major one.
Councillor O'Mary, you're not speaking to so the review can be taken as a rule that it's a separate issue. We can make a resolution to have a review, and that can be done through the council meeting at any normal stage of a council meeting, and we can discuss whether a review is there or not. This is an extension. An extension is separate from a review.
To rest my case here, I think I don't really see the hurry in approving the extension right now. If there is an opportunity to actually do a review and then do the extension, since the extension is actually, will be elapsing in January 2026. So I don't really see why we need to hurry to do the extension now when we can actually incorporate the review. Thank you.
Councillor Healy.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to refer to the legislation. So we've got section 19.1E referred to up there. Section 19.1D is subject to paragraph E, which is the next one. A planning authority shall send a notice under section 23A1 of a proposal to make, amend or revoke a local area plan and publish a notice of the proposal at least every 6 years after the making of the previous local area plan. So we need a bit of clarity, because my reading of that, and if you take that with the other provision in section 18, which is that a local area plan prepared under this section shall indicate the period for which the plan is to remain in force, and our plan actually it doesn't. I'm not clear that the plan vanishes. In fact, it looks to me that the plan continues until we make a replacement or decide to revoke it. Now, that doesn't necessarily determine what we should do here. And I don't disagree with the other councillors who are saying we should just simply extend it. I think that's probably the best thing to do. But I'm a bit concerned that we're not getting clear kind of legal advice. And I'm particularly concerned that we haven't had an answer as to exactly how we deal with the fact that our noise zones are wrong. And maybe the best way to deal with that is, as you and Councillor Mulligan have kind of come to a conclusion, that we need to discuss it. But I'd like to know from the executive what they think the appropriate time frame is for fixing the noise zones. There's been suggestions that if they need to be amended, there is no doubt that they need to be amended. We know that they're wrong, and I'd like to know what the proposals are for dealing with that. Thanks very much, Chair.
Speak. Councillor Dennison.
Surely the whole idea of having an end date on a plan is that it is an end date. We're going to extend this for, what, 5 years? So if it's Councillor Healy's interpretation, then why have any end date on an LAP? We can let them run and run. So it seems to me that the end date is there for a reason, and extending it is there for a reason.
So we're in danger of going round the houses here, but in terms of the exceptional interest, I'm going to allow Councillor Mulligan and Councillor Gearan, and then that's it. Okay? Councillor Mulligan.
Yeah, there is some scaremongering about lapsed LAPs. it is absolutely a statement of law and planning legislation that any LAP or any guidance document in relation to a planning requirement of a specific area or site, lapsed or not, is still considered good practice to refer back to as a local authority, even if it's no longer in existence or is lapsed. If it's the most relevant document that you have in terms of its planning context, it's referred back to in planning decisions. We've seen that in terms of the other sites around here. Example, the Lord Mayor's site, the last plan was 2003, lapsed in 2008. It was referred back to and all. So we always refer back to lapsed applications in terms of good planning if we haven't had time in between when it lapsed and the current application to actually review an area. So I think some people are making out that it's bad planning. If something isn't reviewed in a timeline, the previous plan is still looked to and referred to as a planning guidance document, although an LAP isn't enshrined as a material document in legislation the way it would be. So I'm wrong? Okay. So then why do we refer back to previous plans? I'm just... Thanks.
Councillor Kieran.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come back to the contribution Councillor Boland tonight and from a number of other members. What I would be fearful of this is that by not adopting with the recommendation which is before us from the Director of Planning to extend this plan properly for 5 years in accordance with that section of the legislation, we are leaving ourselves open for somebody like the DAA to then challenge any decisions we make or to seek a judicial review or to go to court. They love it. What we have is a rule book presently. They're not playing by it, but we have a rule book that we can refer to. And I think to avoid any ambiguity, any risk of unnecessary legal action which a third party might take, let's extend the plan in accordance with the legislation and then move from there. Thanks, Chair.
So there's one question before the manager, so maybe you could reply to the chamber through the chair.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, just to be very clear, a local area plan is 6 years or extended through this process. That is very clear in legislation. So I don't know why, and I wouldn't sit here and advise the members that we want to enter into legal uncertainty in the middle of planning applications that are being adjudicated on at the minute on an adopted local area plan. And when those decisions are made to not have an adopted local area plan, there could potentially be legal certainty. So I don't think it would be prudent for me to advise this chamber that we can rely on an old lapsed LAP, because it creates a certain amount of legal certainty. I certainly, if I was going into a court of law, would much more be reliant on a local area plan that had been extended through this process than one that had potentially lapsed after January of 2026.
So can I have a proposer to extend for the resolution? Councillor Gearan seconded it. So,
it's unfair to the members if the question wasn't answered properly.
sorry, as I understood it, the answer that you received was sufficient answer, and what we're going to do is run to the you could put a written question in more detail, but I was happy with the answer that was, well, not happy, but I understood that your question was answered. Okay. Councillor Dennison seconded. Is that agreed? Is there anybody that is against the extension of the LAP? The motion is agreed. I have to read the resolution. That the members, having regard to the provisions of section 19(1)(e)(I) of the Planning and Development Act 2000 as amended, and having considered and agreed with the reasoning, rationale and the Chief Executive's report under section 19(1)(e)(2) of the Planning and Development Act 2000 as amended, agree to defer the sending of a notice under section 23(a)(I) and publishing of a notice under section 23(a)(2) for the period not exceeding 5 years, and thereby approve the extension of the life of the Dublin Airport Local Area Plan 2020 for a further period of 5 years. Agreed? Agreed. Thanks. Item number 29, report pursuant to Part 11 of the Planning and Development Act 2000 and Part 8 of the Local Government Planning and Development Regulations 2001, as amended for proposed development of 32 residential dwellings and all associated site works at Park Road, Kenure, Rush, County Dublin. Proposed. Seconded. Councillor O'Leary. Agreed? Agreed. Item 30, report pursuant to Part 11 of the Planning and Development Act 2000 and Part 8 of the Local Government Planning and Development Regulations 2001 as amended for proposed development of 34 number residential dwellings and all associated site works at Woodside, Swords, County Dublin. Proposed? Seconded. Councillor McCamley. Agreed? Sorry. Apologies, Councillor Newman, I didn't see you. Councillor Newman to come in.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, no, I obviously support the development and all council developments to provide housing for the people of Fingal. It's just there's an issue, and I raised on a number of occasions about the R106, about the traffic along that road, and I just continue to ask that the area be assessed to make it safer for the people in that area, especially with new developments going on there. Thank you.
Councillor Humphreys.
Just one question on this. The public consultation, according to this report, the notice was put up at 30 and 32 North Street. I'm hoping that is an error in the report that we were given rather than, because I would have assumed that any notices would have to be put up on the land that was being developed rather than somewhere we're already building.
Councillor Mulligan.
I've raised this before and I'll raise it again. How we can put this in noise, or not noise zone, sorry, wrong topic. Car parking standard zone 1 for the metro, which won't be built in the lifetime of this development plan, and considering a site that has a footpath that's non-existent, you can't get a buggy or a wheelchair down it, and yet the planning would mitigate that it's 0.5 spaces per unit in terms of car parking units. It's an absolute death trap of a road to get in and out of. I understand in 2035 that might be different, but this plan does nothing to address the danger of entrance and an egress, and how it can be considered car parking zone 1 is beyond me, because there is no bus stop circa 500 metres, and the Bus Connects corridor, which is also due for completion after this development plan. So the development plan standards are implementing standards that won't be achieved because the projects which lead them to achieve those standards are outside of the scope of the development plan, as in the time in which the development plan will have lapsed. This project will be done within the next 2 years, which I'm happy about, but the car parking standards are ridiculous, and it's a matter of health and safety in terms of public safety, and I couldn't make that clearer, and I do think it's doing the area a disservice by not acknowledging it's an absolute death trap. If you try to get into that site in a car, never mind as a pedestrian, you're taking your life in your hands, because it's the main artery to the Pavilions roundabout from the old road. It's a death trap. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, no, just with regards to car park spaces, not just for this, but for other plans where we don't have enough car park spaces. It's not that people won't own cars, they'll park them in the neighbouring estates. Yeah, no, I'm supportive of this development. I do think work needs to be done on the Swords Malahide Road there. That road does need a footpath. I know I'm going just outside the site, but all the way from the Malahide roundabout up to St. Werburgh's and the petrol station, we need proper footpath on both sides of the road there. Car parking issue aside, you know, it's a good location. Don't know how many times I drove past and walked past this site. You never realise how much space is in there. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So I had put it to the floor before, but I hadn't noticed that Councillor Newman had come in. So I'm going to put it to the floor again. But I'll ask the manager to come in if there's any to maybe answer some of the questions, and then we'll see if it's agreed after the manager comes in, because some serious issues have been raised there.
Yeah, so just to confirm that that was a typo in the report. The site notice was placed on the correct site, and that will be amended as a result of this approval. In terms of the parking standards, generally the parking standards are in accordance with the development plan standards which were adopted by this council, and are forward-looking in terms of future infrastructure that will be in place. The alternative to that would have been to provide. We could have provided 17 more parking spaces there and have 15 less families housed on that site. That's the balance you're talking about, and that's the reality on the ground in terms of a limited site. So we're complying with the development plan standard on the basis of future infrastructure being provided. We could have also provided a lot more car parking spaces and contributed to the traffic congestion that Councillor Newman referenced as well. So what we're doing is taking a long-term approach to the provision of infrastructure and the provision of housing, and all of that has been achieved by the Housing and the Architects Department working with planners and the multidisciplinary team that have prepared this design, which we look forward to being adopted by the Council tonight. Thank you.
So is the item agreed? Agreed. Item number 31, Streetscape funding grants. Mr. Cohen-Levin.
Members, this is the 9 applications that were successful in the Streetscape funding application process. They amount to €12,635 in total. I there for your approval.
Councillor Tormey. Sorry, proposed. Councillor O'Brien has seconded. Councillor Tormey.
Thank you. I'm just wondering why there aren't any from the Howth Malahide area, if there were any applications that came in, and also just the criteria for this, because I've said it before, I do think we need to be looking at our industrial estates as well. So particularly along the Dart line, the Baldoyle Industrial Estate needs to, like, if there was some kind of funding that we could give to tidy over the graffiti, because there's so many buildings with graffiti along there. So thank you.
Councillor Shovlin.
Yeah, similar just to Councillor Tormey, I'm wondering that there are no successful applications from the Dublin 15 area. Now maybe there were no applications from the area, but if there wasn't, is there something that we can do going forward to make the various people who are eligible to apply aware that this is something that's available to them? Again, maybe that was done, I don't know. I'd just like to know though. Thanks.
Councillor Shovlin, that was done. There was a lot of effort put into raising awareness of this time around. Again, there were similar issues presented the last time, but there was an extensive effort through social media, through councillors themselves, area committees, through the Chamber of Commerce. There were 19 applications in total from Swords, Balbriggan and Rushlusk, and no application from Howth Malahide or from the Dublin 15 side. In terms of the criteria, this is about the streetscape, so this is about town centre, main streets primarily. We are looking separately under the capital programme and under different initiatives around the industrial estates, so there will be more about that, but this is about improving the presentation of the town centres, and it is very disappointing that we don't get the kind of traction that we want, you know, even the 19, there were 10 applications that just simply didn't meet the criteria, where maybe they were looking to install shop fronts that didn't have planning permission and different things like that. There is one change we did make from last year was a 50-50 scheme last year, and we increased that to 75% funding this year, but still very little traction. So, you know, it's not something we're going to give up on. We will pursue further schemes. This was county-wide. We've had more success in targeted schemes. So we had
a Balbriggan specific scheme last year. We had a Donna Bates scheme and a Rush scheme, and we maybe need to look more particularly and more specifically at certain areas, and certainly it would appear that Castleknock-Mulholland and Holt Malahide need that. So we'll be continuing with it, and we'll look at more ways to get the traction.
So that's proposed and seconded. Agreed? Agreed. Item number 32, Chief Executive's report. Just if there's a couple of motions come in, if you just reference the place in the Chief Executive's report where what you're bringing it in under. Councillor Gearan, if you just reference the place within the Chief Executive report, if you're bringing a motion to the Chief Executive wrote, just make sure you reference page number and where it is. Right. Yeah, Chief Executive.
Thanks, Mayor. Members, take the report as read. Just to congratulate our staff with their success in the LAMO Awards, 14 applications, 5 awards on the night, and then the Grand Prix Award as well. So really good night and some really good projects recognised across every department in the council. And just remind you of the St Patrick's Day parades across the county next Monday. Happy to take questions.
Councillor McCamley.
Thank you. Page 12, libraries. I'd just like to ask the CEO manager, why are the libraries not now using makerspace in the libraries? We've had a lot of emails about them. This has been good for the environment, and it's progressive and innovated, celebrated. And just wondering, is the council going to bring it back, or what is the plan in the future? Okay.
Councillor Leddy.
Thank you. I'd like to raise something in the housing section on page 65. I'm very pleased to see that cost rental is coming into Dublin 15. I think it's something that's very much needed. We all know that there's people in that category who don't earn enough for social housing and who can't get on the property ladder. But what I don't understand is why we're putting it out to tender. It's gone out to round 1 and now round 2. Whenever I hear of anything going out to tender, I know it's going to take a very long time. My understanding is we don't have to put it out to tender. Why are we not administering it ourselves? We have surely the capacity and the staff to do that. And if we were doing it ourselves, it would be happening a lot quicker. And it's 80 units that are completed as far as I know. And it's just an awful shame that it isn't up and running yet at this point. So I'd just like to know why we haven't taken it on ourselves and why we're putting it out to tender. Thanks.
Councillor Shublin.
Yeah, thank you. Just looking forward to the St Patrick's Day parades this weekend. I know there's been a change of plan for the route for the parade through Blanchardstown. I'm just wondering why that's the case. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but I have been asked. And also last year it was brought to my attention that the town could really benefit from some decorations or bunting, just to kind of give a sense that there was something actually happening. Kellystown, I also note in the report that it's commencing at the end of February. I'm just wondering, has it commenced, or is it due to commence in the not too distant future? The Dunsink local plan is mentioned in the report as well. I'd be very interested, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues would also be interested in where exactly we are at with that, and I think some form of briefing for the councillors would be very interesting. Again, similar to Councillor McCamley, I've had a number of people who are very disappointed to learn that makerspace is going to be no longer, so any information about that would be great. Thank you.
Councillor Birchall.
I just wanted to check, Chair, if I had one of those motions you mentioned on the Chief Executive report, and if not, I wanted to speak on it instead here.
Sorry, I wasn't aware of one on the Chief Executive. Oh, you did. Sorry, yeah, you do.
I do have a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait till that's called then.
You can propose it now if you wish.
Yeah. Can we get it up on the screen?
Sorry, Mayor. Just point of order.
Councillor.
That's not on.
can we leave the motions to the end? Because then you open it up into a debate. We get conflated with somebody talking on this motion, somebody talking on the report, then we'll have another motion introduced.
With the agreement, we'll do that? Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Birchall. Councillor Gearan.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate the Chief Executive of the Board. I particularly want to acknowledge the work of the planners and how they haven't given into the Trump-esque type approach of the DAA and the misinformation and everything else. And I really think maybe we should try and get a bit more messages out from our communications. And while it's not a criticism, I think it's important that we highlight the lies, the misinformation, and the way they're conducting their business. So I'd like to thank her for everything she's done, but in particular, I think we should, I certainly as a member, and I'm sure all agree with me, compliment the planning and how they haven't raised to debate, and we should try where we can point out the truth more often to the public who are beginning to believe the lies coming out of the Trump-esque run establishment in the DAA. Thanks.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I think, is there a motion coming down? I might wait and speak. Yeah, I'll wait and speak, sorry, when Councillor Gearan's motion comes up. Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Thanks. Thanks to the Chief Executive for the report. Just a few questions. A question on the Royal Canal Greenway. I know it says dialogue is ongoing with the NTA and Waterways Ireland on the preliminary design, so I suppose just checking when the environmental impact assessment report is likely to be submitted for planning to Board Planola. Just want to welcome the detailed report on Granard Bridge and the commitment once again to a much needed pedestrian and cycle link over the canal and rail line at Granard Bridge, which is desperately needed, and there's significant safety issues there. It would be good to get a briefing for councillors once an outline project programme is in place there. Similar to Councillor Shovlin, I'm looking forward to the St Patrick's Day Parade. I just would like to get some insight into why there's a much shorter parade this year in Blanchardstown. I think it's roughly half as short as last year, so several groups have asked me about that, whether there's been a curtailment of parades across the county or whether it's only in Blanchardstown. And if there's a financial issue, it'd just be useful to know that, to ensure that in the next budget we're mindful of that when we're allocating enough funding for events. And finally, like Councillor McCamley, a lot of people have contacted me to express disappointment about the library not going ahead or phasing out the makerspace, and I think there's a lot of concern about that. So it'd be good to if that could be looked at again. Thanks.
Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, and thanks very much for the report. I'd just like some information on voids, if that's possible. People seem to be mentioning voids more and more and more, and I know the homeless figures are increasing all the time, and people will always look at voids boarded up, but just in Dublin 15, I see the total number of voids there in the letting process is 254, but I was just looking back on some reports we asked for in Dublin 15, and in March 23 there were 24 voids, in April 24 there were 32, in October 24 there were 44. I don't have the most up-to-date numbers, but they're jumping all the time, and I'm just wondering, is it due to funding, or are more houses becoming available, or is there a reason that we seem to be having so many voids at the moment? Thank you.
Councillor Corkery.
Thanks. Yeah, just very quickly in relation to the Balya Namona development in Moortown Swords, I just want to welcome the opening of the portal there in Q2 2025 for 151 social and affordable homes. And then secondly, just on page 306, in relation to the taking in charge of Keenley in Swords, I'm just wondering if it's possible at this time to provide a timeline. Cormac.
Councillor Mulville.
Thanks very much, Chair. I want to congratulate the team as well in terms of the award for Portran Avenue, which is a fantastic project and going on for many, many years. I remember, as we recall, former Mayor Fingal, Jerry Maguire, may rest in peace, first raised it many, many years ago, tried to get movement from the HSE and from the council on it. And in the last term, I see myself and former Mayor, Councillor Adrian Henchy were pursuing it as an ongoing basis. But it's brilliant to see people now living in this these houses and restoration of traditional buildings there, and just to urge more of those kind of projects. They're really fantastic and great to see. Thanks very much.
Councillor Quinlan.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much to the Chief Executive for the report. Just a couple of questions in relation to the local authority integration team. Essentially, the questions are: how many have been provided housing or turnkey properties either through and approved housing bodies, or are you able to tell me how many are being given independent living through, now I'm paraphrasing here, DPP, Department of Property Procurement. It's a section of DECIDY, the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, that procures properties for BTOBs, IPAS applicants and stuff like that. And wondering if you'd be able to tell me that information. And then as well, how many IPAS, BOTPs or designated accommodation centres are there in the Dublin 15 catchment area? And then as well, just in relation to Dunsink, I've seen a section just of horses. And yeah, just in relation then to the Dunsink area and the horses, and just what work does the council actually do to liaise with horse owners up there? Is there any way of getting a section of land up there designated specifically to them? Because I know there's a development plan gone in there for the Dunsink area as well, looking to build property on it, but I'd like to see that the council keeps a section of the land for these people as well.
Councillor O'Meara.
Yeah, I commend the Chief Executive for the report and some fantastic laurels there, especially the Lama Awards and how well the Fingal County Council did at that event. However, I joined my colleagues to register my displeasure at the thought of losing the makerspace in Balumstone Library. As a youth worker, I know the importance of that space, and I know how many of my young people have gained loads there. And at the time we're celebrating Fingal skills acquisition and all of that, to imagine that we're actually contemplating losing such a valuable resource space, I think it's difficult to fathom. So I would love for us to review that and keep the makerspace. And similarly, without overbeating the issue, I think we also need to look at the St. Patrick's Day event and the idea around cutting short the parade. Residents of Balumstone are absolutely unhappy about it. So I think we need to look into that as well. Thank you.
Councillor Humphrey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the report. The 19th of April, the much asked for and much anticipated food market is starting in Swords. I know we're still waiting for the promotional period, or the branding and etc. to be finalised, but when will we start advertising it? And is there an advertising plan around that reach out via TikTok, Instagram, and more than just the usual kind of sign on the side of the road, that there be a wider reach out to a wider demographic, especially a younger demographic? And then I just noticed that there's a change in the format of the city's reports. Before, when it came to abandoned vehicles, we were shown a graph going back over the last year and a half of how many have burnt cars and how many abandoned cars the council has removed. It was 6 months last month that we had lifted abandoned car. I'm assuming now it's 7 months. And then that's 97 reports this year on top of 400-ish from 2024. I know from experience that 99.9% of all reports aren't actually an abandoned car, but I do find it quite strange that it's now 7 months since the council has lifted an abandoned car, and I'd certainly appreciate if we reverted back to the old format of showing the complete picture of reporting these figures in the city's reports going forward. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just a query in relation to the section on street furniture licences and parklet removal. Recently, we had a discussion of the Houghton Malahide area meeting last week. A motion I tabled that, and I tabled a few questions about the replacement, or what was to replace removed parklets in the Houghton Malahide area. I'm concerned that the answers that were given and the position that's been taken is contrary to commitments that were given when I've raised the issue here during the Chief Executive's report. Of 13 parklets in total that we had in the Houghton Malahide area, only 4 areas have been selected for footpath build out of those 13. I understand the position of where there's businesses that had a parklet and have requested the footpath build out, that those will be prioritised, but I get the sense that there's I made the comment at last week's area meeting that any businesses who don't want the footpath build out should not have a veto. My understanding, based on raising this issue during the Chief Executive's report over the last 12 to 18 months, has been that the starting position for removed parklets would be footpath build out or something suitably equivalent. Sorry, Mayor, I know I've gone over time. Thank you.
Councillor Lee. Thank you. I just want to raise a couple of items. To go to the easy one first. Skerries Mills are waiting on a report of the building, a review, a survey. Skerries Sailing Club and Skerries GA Club are putting in solar panels, and we're held up. We can't do it at Skerries Mills. So I'll just ask the director to try and push that along, please. Anyway, straight into DBEC. We had a great meeting with DBEC up in Belfast, Dublin Belfast Economic Corridor. Chief Executive was there. The director was there. We met a lot of chief executives. It was like speed dating with chief executives. I met the head of the IDA. I met Ian Rodarin. And the IDA are looking for 1,000 acres, 3 sites, or 500 acres, 3 sites. And I'd like to land one in Balbriggan. And I want us to engage with them and collaborate with them to bring more jobs to Balbriggan with more ambition than we have already. We have about 200-ish acres there. So what's my ask? Let's engage with the IDA, with other landowners in the area, come together, collaborate, and make a pitch for 500,000 acres site in Balbriggan to bring thousands of jobs to Balbriggan for the 10,000 kids in school there. Thank you.
You forgot I was there up at DBEC, but sure. Councillor Newman.
Oh, am I on? Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just on page 17, page 99, there's mention of biodiversity, which there is in many other places. A couple of months ago, I had a question here about biodiversity, about cuts to the budget, and I was informed that there were no cuts. But I've been informed by an email that by a fellow councillor, due to a significant shortfall in the revenue budget for biodiversity projects this year, we have cancelled our annual events programme, including the one for Biodiversity Week. So maybe you could give me a bit of clarity on that, please. Thanks.
Councillor High.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for the report. Same issue that Councillor O'Brien raised following his motion last week. We learned 13 original parklets in the Houghton Malahide area, and now it looks like 4 footpath build-outs, which is quite low. And I was just wondering, you might not have the numbers to hand, but is there even an estimate of the county-wide numbers of footpath build-outs that are going to be replacing parklets? More than half, less than half. Like they were a great idea during COVID. They allowed businesses to serve more customers during restrictions, and they allowed vulnerable people to dine or eat out when they may not have been able to do that indoors. So yeah, just is there a rough idea, if you don't have the exact numbers, of the number of footpath build-outs that are going to be replacing the parklets? Thank you.
Councillor Kitt.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, CEO, for the report. Just 3 questions there I want to ask. I've got a couple of questions about clubs in Dublin 15 participating in St. Patrick's Day Parade. There's no contact made with them, and they're just wondering what's the problem. And number 2, as Councillor Shrubland said there, I'm just wanting an update on Kellystown Cemetery. Has work begun, and is it going to finish in 2026? And also the next school, Safe Route to School in Dublin 15 as well. What's the next school online? Thank you.
Councillor Healy.
Vera, just in relation to the parklets and the discussion we had at the area committee, Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Hoy certainly speak for all the area committee. And our concern, I think, is that we wish to retain the reallocation that was done with the street space for COVID, and we wish to continue with it and see it expanded. And unfortunately, operations don't seem to be on the same track. They seem to see it as a kind of a temporary thing that was done and now needs to automatically be reversed. So hopefully we can reconcile those. The section in the Chief Executive's report about the Broadmeadow Greenway is a bit concerning. It's indicating that following the excellent work done putting in the bridge last year, that the work on the northern section of the causeway would be this year, and the work on the southern section of the causeway would be in 2026. And I find it very hard to understand why we couldn't work on the two in parallel. And maybe that's something to discuss at the area committee, but this is the first time I think we've seen that. And finally, just to say that the makerspace issue, you know, it's not just Dublin 15, because the library strategy actually says that this is something we want to expand across the county. And so, you know, we're concerned everywhere to see it faltering at the start when we should be expanding it. Cormagat.
Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I know the St. Patrick's Day Parade has been raised again. I know in Balbriggan it has been reduced in its offering. My real issue with that is that I've came across the information on it by a third-party phone call, which I don't think is the correct way to be informed with regard to changes that are being made. I know we also have a cut in the budget when I did try to unravel what was going on. Don't have a problem with that, but what I do have a problem with is some events that we do run in the Balbriggan area, and I'll name one, the Unison Festival, which is very poorly attended, a lot of money spent on it. So it's just to understand how we proportion the money, even though I know in general terms we pass the budget, but the allocation of funds, we don't get the opportunity to decide and have maybe some local input on that. I want to compliment Fingal County Council and the team on the skills strategy launch. I think it's absolutely amazing. The feedback I'm getting from stakeholders, students, teachers, everyone who's engaging in it, it's a very, very important part of, I think, our economic progression and how we look forward to delivering the right skill sets for businesses that are looking to come into the area. And that feeds into what Councillor Leary has suggested. I think he's 100% right. I didn't get to the DBAC meeting, but I do think that we do need to look at, if we're looking at the collaboration that DBAC is, and we're trying to consider that the region becomes an economic hub for the whole East Coast area, then we have to consider that there's also going to be competition in that space. So I think that we need to be very, very clear about making sure that we have the requisite right land available that's plug-in or shovel-ready when opportunity strikes. Other than that, we're going to be playing second fiddle to other local authorities who are equally going to be looking for the opportunity to deliver large-scale business in the area.
Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you.
So we have now 4 motions arising from the Chief Executive's report. You know, we want to give them full debate, but on the other hand, I just want, we've got half an hour or 37 minutes to complete this item or to get anything else in. Just ask members to bear that in mind if we want to get through all of them. Take them in the order that they were received. The first motion is from Councillor Birchall. Oh, executive to answer, apologise. Getting ahead of myself.
Councillors, I'll run through the answers quickly and come back to you during the week if there's anything that I don't get to. On the makerspace, I hear several members mentioning that. Let me carry out a review to see what has happened there and if what's feasible, and come back to members in relation to it. On the cost rental in Mulhuddard, no, they're not complete yet. They're a different model of housing for us. It's our first time to be involved with a direct delivery of cost rental. The purpose of the tender is to bring in a management company to deal with the letting of the units and also the maintenance. It's important that a high quality spec of maintenance is carried out in order to ensure that they're attractive to the market. So this is how we're trialling this first project. We learn from it, and if any changes are necessary, we'll implement them in future projects. It's the first cost rental that we're directly responsible for, but it's not the first cost rental in Dublin 15. The land development agencies have a number of projects that they've delivered through cost rental. On the St Patrick's Day parade in Blanchardstown, I understand that the issue with Blanchardstown is either a kilometre or 3 kilometres long. That's my understanding. So the 3 kilometres is too long for a lot of the young children. So again, we're looking at the 1 kilometre this year to see how that works, and happy to review it when it's over. Changes made to all of the parades have been following a review to ensure they don't go over budget. There's no reduction in budget for the St Patrick's Day parades, but they have been going over budget quite a lot in recent years. Mr Quinnivan might come in on that, but I can reassure all members they'll be spectacular parades. There's no need to worry about the quality of them. I take the question from Councillor Shovelin about decorations in Dublin 15 in Blanchardstown Village. I don't know if it's too late for that, but I'll take it away. Kellystown Graveyard, the contractor is at last mobilising, so I'm hopeful if they're not on site, they're about to go on site any moment. On the Dunsink studies, I might ask Mr McAleese to come in about liaison with councillors. On the Royal Canal Greenway, hopefully the earliest it will be, in terms of lodgement to the board, will be the end of this year. I'm hopeful we will make a lodgement in 2025. Again, the makerspace. On the voids, they're counted differently now, which is causing a problem. That's an anomaly that we need to fix in the CE's report, because as units come into us, new units, I think they're added to that number. We typically have about 100 voids, Paul, I think that's correct. You might come in if you want to add anything there. So we have a very small percentage of voids of our overall stock. We turn them round with our architects department really quickly. Thanks for your comments, Councillor Corkery, on Moortown Swords. I suppose I am looking for the support of councillors for all of our projects. I'm delighted to get on site with Moortown. Typically when we launch affordable units, they're oversubscribed. Balliskin in Donabate, for example, was launched 2 weeks ago. There's 112 affordable units. There's 629 applicants. So important to us that we get units delivered quickly, because the demand is high in the county. Thanks for your comments on Portran Avenue. Councillor Mulville, great project. Congratulations to our architects department and to our housing department for the delivery of that project. We've worked hard with the HSE to secure their agreement on those units, as you know. Councillor Quinnan, on the integration team, there's no connection between their work and the allocation of properties or the work of IPAS in terms of how they provide accommodation. Their work relates principally to integration and making sure supports and signposting is available for people who are living in our communities. The precise numbers you're looking for, I don't have. I'll take it away and see if there's information we can provide to you. On Dunsink, Mr Story might come in, but just to say my ambition for this council term is that we will advance the delivery of a regional park in Dunsink, and I'd like to do that in association with the delivery of housing. It will take a lot of work, but I'd be hopeful that the councillors would be supportive of that. It's a strategic located piece of land, and I think it could go hand in hand with the delivery of housing. The food market in Swords, yes, of course, it'll be promoted as soon as we're in a position to do that. I think it should be a great addition to the town. I'll ask Mr Story to come in on the abandoned vehicles. I'm not quite sure what the issue is there. On the street furniture, Councillor O'Brien, and to Councillor Healy, I think as well. Yeah, certainly that was the intention, to retain the public space that was used for parklets. We couldn't continue to keep the parklets. They were of poor quality. They were, really not improving the look of our towns. But I know Ms Daly would be looking to build out where we can. She might want to come in just on the issues and on the numbers that were mentioned at the area committee meeting. But our ambition would be to build out those areas and other suitable areas. You'll see the likes of the Part 8 for Harbour Road and Skerries, which is trying to precisely do that, as well as improve pedestrian and active travel links. So, and of course, we're planning a large public realm project in Swords as well. So all working to that principle. On the solar panels at Skerries Mills, I'll follow that up, Councillor O'Leary. I'm not sure what that issue is. It's of course in our own interest to work well with the IDA, and it's an open door policy. There's no difficulty with our engagement. It's a very strong engagement led by Mr Quinlivan, but from time to time by myself as well. Anyone that wants 500 acres in Balbriggan, we will take the hand off them, as well as the opportunity to bring jobs to the town of Balbriggan. So don't have any fear in that respect. And certainly Stephenstown is a priority for us to market as a new job location for the county. On biodiversity, there is no cut in budget. It's the same budget as last year. Whether we can do less with that budget, I'll follow up with the team there. But there was no cut in budget. On the precise figure of the county-wide parklets, Councillor High will follow up with that. Clubs having no contact, we certainly have put out a call to clubs, but if you want to give me the details, Councillor Kate, we'll get somebody to follow up with them tomorrow, but all welcome as always. Councillor Dave, if you might come in on the Safe Routes to School in Dublin 15, the next project. On the Broadmeadow, a complicated project. We're progressing it as quickly as we can. Delighted to have made so much progress, but I know the project management of that is quite difficult. We overcome the obstacles, but just bear with us until we get absolute certainty for each contract. Mr McAleese might want to come in on that as well. And on the skills strategy, I was very disappointed that I just simply couldn't make that on the day. Very proud of the work of the staff involved in that and of the collaboration with other agencies. I think it will stand to the county well, both from the perspective of our employers, but also in terms of attracting employers to the county. I might start with Mr Story and then come across.
Yeah, thanks, Chief Exec. On the abandoned vehicles, that's just an error on the report. That table should be there. There is actually a Chief Exec's order to remove 5 or 6 vehicles, so we'll get you details of that and it'll be included in the next report. In relation to the horses on Dunsink, obviously we engage with horse owners on a continuous basis there, and we provide some feed and some medical assistance to the horses there. As the Chief Exec said, there is an ambition obviously to turn the landfill into a regional park, so there will be further engagement with the the horse owners there to try and facilitate that over the next number of years. Just in relation to Safe Routes to School, the members are aware in the Chief Exec report there's the round 2 schools that are there. The next 4 schools to be considered are there. So. And then we'll go back to Antasca then to deal with the balance of schools that are being considered, but that won't be until 2026. Thanks.
Just a couple of queries there. Just in relation to the Royal Canal, we're continuing to work towards Q3 submission dates to Onboard Planala. Just a number of updates to the environmental impact. The EIAR are required, so the team are continuing to work on that with the consultants. The Dunsink, consultants have been appointed. It's quite a large multidisciplinary team, and I suppose just recognising the scale and nature of the lands involved in that study, there's quite a number of months' work for the consultants and our own team before we'd be able to provide an update, but we would expect to bring something to the elected members in Q3 of this year, just in terms of a full update in terms of where that study is going. And just on the Broadmeadow, as the Chief Executive alluded to there, it is a highly complex project. We're working very closely at this stage. There's weekly meetings with CIE, just trying to work through the detailed design. when that process has concluded, hopefully in the next few weeks, happy to provide a fuller updates to the members and just to bring you through the revised time frames that are provided for in the Chief Executive's report.
Just to come back in on the voids issue, as the Chief Executive said, it includes all delivery streams, and in particular, when we get in a lot of delivery now at the moment, it's multi-unit development, so we get it in from blocks of apartments, and we get in large numbers at one time, so that takes a while to work through the system on our side and also on the tenant side in terms of getting set up in a new house. So take the point that maybe it's not presented in the clearest way possible, so we'll take that away and present that maybe with a bit more granular detail next month to paint that picture a bit more clearly.
Mayor, just a couple of things. The Skerries Mills condition survey, Councillor, we're in a tender process at the moment to appoint the consultants that will undertake that survey, so that's ahead of us. On the makerspace, my understanding is there's a change of contract there, so that might be getting confused with the end of the makerspace. It's most certainly not. We're very committed to the makerspaces. They're a great success, and we're currently building a new one across the road, so members should be reassured that there's no lack of commitment to makerspace. But I'll get an update on where we are with that contract transition, and we'll let members know. Just on the Blanchardstown, Chief Executive said about reducing it to 1 kilometre. That has been a bone of contention with a lot of the younger participants, that a 3 kilometre walk with a significant part of it being up the Snugborough Road with very little spectators is just a bit demanding. So they have been requesting us to reduce it to 1 kilometre. It does help that we're not then progressing with road closures and this kind of safety arrangements that are so costly for 3 kilometres. So there is a benefit to us financially in terms of the increased cost of running these events that you've heard me at the budget meeting last year, and was it last month where we talked about the events programme. There is a very significantly increasing cost of running all of our events. We are examining them all. We're prioritising on Paddy's Day the content of the parade, so you will see some changes around stands and viewing areas, and some of the kind of VIP arrangements that would have been there in the past will not be there or will have changed substantially this year. But our priority is the quality of the parade, and we're trying to make sure that we can maintain that to the high level that you're used to. And Councillor Murphy, there is a knock-on. You will have heard me talking about Unison and some of the events. We're reviewing all of our events. We had a discussion around Flavours of Fingal earlier this year. We are looking at events like Unison, which maybe are not as successful as we would have hoped that they would be at this stage. So we are looking at changing some of those arrangements.
Councillor Haughey, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Healy, with regards to street furniture licences. I would have given updates all along since last September, October, with regards to the street furniture licences, and I was very clear in it that those businesses that have a parklet and have requested a footpath build-out will commence in February, March. And our priority is, with regards to the street furniture licences, that those people, the businesses that requested a build-out on their street furniture licence, and we'll proceed with those. We have in excess of 36 street furniture licences in the county, so we have certainly expanded the space within the county with regards to street furniture licences, and that is a way up on the number of street furniture licences that were there during COVID. The parklets were temporary, they were very successful, and we will work with the businesses, any of the businesses out there that wish a parklet to go in, we will certainly assist them. We will also look at those spaces with regards to all alternative uses. But I was very clear in the Chief Executive's report for September, October, November, December, January and February that we were writing out to all the businesses. We were telling them we were removing the parklet, and we requested them to let us know if they wished to have a build out. And that is in the CE report, so there was never an intention for us. We didn't say we were building out every single parklet area. And there has been a number of those parklet areas where the engineers have deemed it is not suitable. And I would always have advised you of that in the Chief Executive report. I would have given an update at every meeting. So we'll continue to work with any of the businesses out there that want a parklet. Priority at the moment is those businesses that have requested a parklet. And I want to try and get them in for them as near to the summer as possible. If I had gone ahead with it last September, we'd possibly be there now at the moment. But we will work to try and get as much street furniture space out there for the businesses. But we have to focus on the ones that have requested a parklet. There are a number of businesses as well who requested the parklets to be removed. They weren't looking for a space outside. I will come back with the full details with regards to all of the parklets in the CE report at the next meeting for all areas.
Councillor Gearin.
Is it appropriate, I don't know, if I could propose that we extend the meeting to allow us to deal if we run out of time with the important motions that are before you?
Yeah, so I will move to extend the meeting until 8:20 at the latest. If any business isn't completed by then, it'll have to be resubmitted then afterwards. So we've got 4 motions. I'd ask people to bear that in mind when making contributions. So the first, in order in which they were received, the first motion is from Councillor Burchell. If we could get that up. Proposed, Councillor Burchell, seconder.
Proposed.
Second.
So, thanks, Chair. During my casework over the last while, I've come across a number of cases where tenants have received, have had their notices of termination validated by threshold, and subsequently it became clear that the landlords in question weren't registered with the RTB, which is a legal requirement. My understanding is that you can't issue a valid notice to quit from a position of illegality, and when the tenants followed up with the RTB, the notices of quit were revoked. And then in one particular case, it transpired that the party who issued the notice to quit, which was subsequently resulted in an RTB determination order to vacate the property, they were not the legal owner of the property. So, this is very troubling, and this is, the reason for my motion. We need to ask threshold, what exactly are they checking? Are they checking the landlords are registered? And are they checking the ownership of the property when they get these notices of termination? I'm very worried actually how many invalid notices have been, rubber stamped, as it were, by threshold. Members will be aware that the council refers people to threshold when they get a notice of termination, and the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive funds threshold to offer this service. So, tenants already have very meagre protections in Irish law, and it appears that even those are not being upheld. Thanks.
So before I bring anybody else in, the manager, are you? Yeah.
Yeah, so as the councillor says, this is a service that's provided to tenants through the DRHE and through ourselves, and we're happy to contact thresholds. I understand they do have a process in place. There's also an appeals procedure in place for any Section 10 funded body. So I'm not aware if the cases in particular that you're mentioning have gone through that process, but we're happy to get clarity on the process. We ourselves don't get involved in that. It's done through thresholds, so we can forward on the concerns and ask for an update on their procedures.
So, we agree the motion. I have 2 speakers indicated coming in before. Do you still need to come in? Councillor Mulville.
Thanks, Chair. I just briefly wanted to support the motion and commend Councillor Burchell for bringing it forward. And just struck me as well when he was speaking that Threshold used to hold an outreach clinic in the Blanchardstown offices, which was very helpful for people, facing the threat of homelessness over many years. It stopped during the COVID period. It was never re-established. And I think something that needs to be done is for that to be put back in place, because it gives people a chance to actually go and speak to someone face to face. And I'd asked Threshold previously, were they going to reinstate it? They were considering it at the
You're
time.
off the topic, strictly speaking, of the motion.
Okay, yeah,
there.
look, I'll raise it
Apologies,
separately. Yeah,
Councillor.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that, Chair. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
I'll raise it separately.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yeah, thanks very much, sir. Yeah, absolutely, we should be asking for clarity on how this process is done. Separate, I'll raise a motion for it, but I'd also like to see a situation where the council gets the notice to quit that has been validated and actually acts immediately instead of waiting for people to be made homeless to present themselves at the front counter to start acting.
So is the motion agreed? Agreed. Second motion from Councillors Quinn, Smith, Donnelly, Hannafy, Birchall, and Mulligan. No. Sorry, they're separate. Sorry. That's Quinn, Smith, Donnelly, and Hannafy. Sorry, apologies. Sorry, it was the order of motions. my apologies. Councillor Quinn.
Three motions, just so we have an idea of what's ahead of us. Thanks.
Yeah, I can give you the next motion following that is regarding the Balumstone, and then the fourth one is Councillor Mulligan submitting the request for a review that we discussed at the when we were discussing the local area plan for Dublin Airport, and all four are mentioned within the Chief Executive's report. How substantively or how much they're linked is a different question, but we'll allow them. Councillor Quinn, apologies.
Very much. Firstly, thank you very much for the Chief Executive's report. But this, propose the motion, yeah. So this stems from page 74 of the Chief Executive's report. It's important to state that. This is in relation to the restrictions that have been put in place that are going to make people homeless. So the restrictions are introduced to the social housing tenant in situ scheme by the Minister. Recently, will make people homeless. The social housing tenant in situ scheme is working. It has prevented here in Fingal 351 families and individuals from going into homelessness. The scheme should be expanded to provide multi-annual funding and targets for local authorities to ensure the maximum number of tenants at risk of eviction and homelessness can avail of it. Instead of increasing this vital protection to renters with eviction notices, the Minister has reduced funding and cut targets for the scheme. His officials have also written out to this local authority this week, I believe, imposing a series of new restrictions on the operation of the scheme. Under the new rules, single people, couples without children will be excluded. Rental properties must be at least 2 years in social housing support system. Councils will not be allowed to reclaim refurbishment costs. The Department will also remove the ability of the Council to acquire more than the target that has been set. The cut in funding, reduction in targets and introduction of restrictions will make more people homeless. There's no doubt about that. This is already a significant backlog in the tenant in situ applications. If you can remember last month, I had raised it with the Director of Housing about accessing additional funding that had been made available last year. Now we find there is no funding, or the restrictions have been put in place. Now the Minister for Housing is putting more people at risk of homelessness with these changes. The government can claim that tackling the housing and homeless crisis is their #1 priority. If this is the case, why are they taking decisions that will actually increase the number of people forced into prolonged stays in emergency accommodation? And can I just add to that, I'm dealing with families, and I'm sure everyone else is, that are being housed on the other side of the city in emergency accommodation while their kids are trying to get to secondary or to primary school and secondary school on this side in Fingal, and up from Balbriggan all the way down to Swords and out to Blanchardstown. These children are getting on buses early in the morning to get to school, and the parents are fraught. They're in homelessness, and then they're being contacted by the school officers in relation to why are their children missing more than 20 days. This goes far-reaching than housing. This is children's welfare and education. Thank you very much.
No clarification. So you're down to speak, Councillor Donnelly. It's not a point of order. He said it counts for clarification. Is a point of. Well, make a point of order then. Sorry.
Is that accurate? Is that true? Has Chief Executive received that instruction?
We'll allow the Chief Executive to come in. Councillor Donnelly. The motion is proposed. If it's not true, then you could vote against it. If it is true, you can vote for it, but we'll discuss the motion. Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you. It was published in the Irish Times last Thursday, so if it's not true, I think your party can have some serious ask them some serious questions. When the eviction ban was lifted 2 years ago, and we had a lot of discussion around it in this chamber, the tenant in situ scheme was seen as a lifeline for people potentially entering homelessness. The number of people in homeless accommodation, and I'm sure people don't need to be reminded of this, but I'll say it anyway, it's increased to a record high of 15,286 people. That's according to the latest government figures. The latest data shows that 10,683 adults and 4,603 children were accessing emergency accommodation during the last full week of January. And there's been a lot of talk about tenant in situ, about when are we getting the new targets, when is the funding going to be released, and there was a lot of people left in limbo while we waited for that. And we fully expected the targets to be genuine and worthwhile, and we expected to be able to get more people out of potential homelessness. Now, I've no idea how many properties were on hold in Fingal, but in Limerick City and Council there was 107, so I'd imagine we weren't too far off. So I think, there's not an awful lot we can do in this council, but I think a letter to the Minister for Housing, I think it's the least we can do, asking him to reverse this really, really terrible decision that will result in more people going into homelessness, particularly couples without children and single individuals.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I'll be brief because my two colleagues have covered it fairly well already. I would love to know from the executive here if we have the numbers, or if they consider the number of landlords who have pulled out of sales because of the delay even before these restrictions were being introduced was substantial and result because of that delay, or if the numbers that were made homeless as a result were substantial. We're into Q2 nearly already, and we've seen, I'm sure I'm not the only councillor here who is getting daily people requesting and being on the verge of homelessness, and it would break your heart when you hear the genuine stories that are happening. So if in relation to the Chief Executive report and relevant to the motion here, I would love to know if you have those numbers. Thanks.
Councillor Butler.
Yeah, it's good to see the councillors supporting the scheme that was brought in by the previous Minister for Housing, Darragh O'Brien. Yeah, I suppose what I've heard from Minister of Housing, James Brown, that 265 million to fund housing acquisitions by local authorities has been approved for 2025. An important decision by the government designed to support the local authorities to buy second-hand homes for 2025. So I suppose, yeah, I'd just like to hear the manager just to confirm what actually is true about what's been said, and to confirm that they have received communication from the Minister of Housing confirming a new allocation for this year, which is most welcome to follow on from what Minister O'Brien brought in. Thank you.
Councillor Redwood.
Yeah, I support the motion. This particular scheme, the tenant in situ scheme, has allowed many families in Dublin 15 to avoid homelessness. It's been a very important scheme, and was, after all, the justification for removing the eviction plan, and now this is being rolled back. So it's, one cut after another rolling along. So, I think that we should absolutely support this resolution.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you. I received a reply from the Minister for Housing today telling me that the councils have been instructed, whatever, but a circular was to issue. So I don't think any circulars landed. That's a newspaper article. I'd like to know if it's factually true or not, so that we're not debating on something that may or may not be true. That's the issue. And I would be very concerned if restrictions have gone in. And I've already communicated that to ministers and into government. But I don't know if it's true, because if the circular hasn't been issued, maybe we're going to be told the circular has been issued, but not according to the reply I have in writing today from the Minister for Housing.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor. I haven't seen the circular issued to all local authorities, apparently that was issued last Thursday by the Minister, but based on what is alleged to have been in the circular, there are a few restrictions which I think myself and other councillors would like to see undone or may have issue with, but that's all in the context of what's been reported. And we don't have facts because we haven't got sight of the circular, but there are suggestions that, you know, single persons or persons in couples without children, as well as revamping or works done in homes which are purchased under the tenant in situ. If a person is a tenant themselves, that certain extensions or works, remediation works, might not be done or supported by the council. If that is the case, they're only speculation, but if that is the case, they're issues that we would and I would like to see removed from that type of restrictions within the scheme. Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks to the Sinn Féin group for bringing forward the motion. I suppose I'm just reading a press statement which was issued by Minister Brown, which does, as Councillor Butler said, refer to the extension of the scheme for a year. It also refers to targeting priority needs, such as families and children, older people, persons with a disability. The implication of that is that there are tightened eligibility criteria. Now, that's not stated explicitly, and perhaps the manager can comment on that, but the implication of the press statement is that the eligibility criteria have been tightened and that those eligibility criteria would adversely affect single people, couples without children, and perhaps younger people. So I think it's important that we clarify that and get that right. Any change to the eligibility criteria would be very worrying, I think, for all councillors, and I think we would unite in seeking that those be reversed. Right? I hope we would. Obviously, the Labour group opposed the removal of the eviction ban. I fully support the tenant in situ scheme, actually, no matter who introduced it. I think it's a good scheme. I think it needs to be extended rather than being restricted. I think that's the message we should send out. Thanks.
Before I bring Councillor Quinn back in, I'll maybe allow the manager to comment in so much as he can.
Yeah. Well, we await a circular from the department on this in terms of an actual financial allocation or a number of properties allocation. We're aware of the national allocation in terms of 265 million that's been publicised. In terms of the prioritisation between children, families with children or single people, the indications are that the prioritisation would be more focused on families with children and older people, people with disabilities, and more vulnerable groups such as that. We're not under any impression that that's to exclude any particular group, but there will be a prioritisation required when we implement the scheme throughout the year, and we need to figure out how that's going to work in practice once we have sight of the circular. In terms of the number of landlords that may have pulled out or otherwise, people pull out of this scheme all the time because the tenants make other arrangements, find alternative property, or come to other housing arrangements for themselves. So we don't have or log that type of information. But I suppose to summarise, we're looking forward to getting this scheme back up and running, and we look forward to receiving the official confirmation from the department.
Councillor Quinn.
I just want to reference here, note from the circular. Local authorities approve housing bodies, prioritise acquisitions for families with children, older persons and people with disabilities who are at risk of homelessness. And you understand that the Director, Paul Carroll, there has alluded to that and has mentioned that, and that is correct. So if Fingal,
Councillor O'Brien.
Thanks, Mayor. Did Mr. Carroll not state
on the record that he hasn't received this circular that Councillor Quinn is quoting from. And on that basis, the motion as written should be out of order.
So, there's, in my view, there are motions which have been agreed, or if we were disallow on the basis of a dispute over fact in relation to motions, we disallow, and a lot of motions that are. The question here is it relevant here? Has it been raised in the public domain? Is it, is there sufficient evidence to suggest that there is something there from the Minister's own statement? So I would invite, once this motion is passed, and the Minister can respond to any inaccuracies within the statement of the motion. That's my real number. I think it'd be unfair to rule it out of order because we don't have sufficient in relation. Just because the circular hasn't been released doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and there's third-party evidence that we're talking in relation to it. Thanks. Councillor Quinn.
Yeah, I'll just finish off. Thank you, Alvaro. So, what I had stated was that the director has alluded to that. Obviously, he has stated that he hasn't received the circular. I'm looking at it here, and what it is stating here is that it will exclude couples with children.
If the circular hasn't been issued, it doesn't exist as a circular.
Yeah, it'll exclude children, couples with children, and rental properties will be excluded to them. That's the point I'm making. Thank you.
Is the motion agreed? Is it agreed or not agreed? If it's factually incorrect, you can go against it. Well, yeah, in order to abstain, you have to call a vote. Are you calling a vote? Motion agreed. Okay. On to the next motion.
Motions in response to the Chief Executive's report, okay? I think you all need to bear in mind that when these come in, there is no report from the Executive on them. So when I chair the Howth Malahide Area Committee, I get the motion proposed and there's a report there that I have read out, okay, so that we're dealing with the facts and the situation.
What's the point
My
of order
point
here?
is that you refuse to allow the Executive to come in and comment in some way to establish the reality of the situation and allowed...
So I want to get on to the next motion, which is Councillor... Sorry. Is calling a vote. Okay, vote. In fairness, we did agree because when we went on to the next motion or point of order. Thanks, everyone. On to Councillor Gearan, and bear in mind, we're finishing at 20 past irrespective of the other motions, okay? Councillor Gearan, can we have you seconder Councillor Butler? Councillor Gearan.
I bring this motion, and I'm very sad that...
Point of order from Councillor Ryan.
It seems to me that this motion is not in order, and it seems to me you should have ruled it out of order. Here we have a motion which calls for discussion around a live judicial review. And I'm asking, in your own decision to rule this in or out, have you sought legal advice as to whether it's appropriate that we should do so? Now, there is much in this motion that I could support, but having a discussion around...
Is this a point of order or a contribution?
But you've made the point. You've made the point of order. Thanks. Okay. And what I'll do is, if you give me, I'm going to call 3 minutes. Thanks.
I believe you should.
Councillor O'Brien.
You've allowed the motion to be proposed and seconded. It is now the property of the floor.
It is now the property of the floor. However, I need to consider what has been a strong legal case and what I don't want to. So on. The motion has been proposed. I don't want to make a rash decision in relation to the point that has been made. I'm just... Councillor Gearan.
I'm satisfied, but I'm no expert. I'm quite happy to amend and put a full stop after the word Balumstone.
And remove everything else?
I'll remove it. I'll remove it from the text. It might not change my contribution, and that's another matter entirely, but I will certainly make sure the motion is in order.
So, can we have an amendment to that?
I've no type. If somebody could do it, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Will you give me
Yeah.
pull it, rub it out?
And I hadn't ruled it in or out of order. Let me be clear there. Let me be clear. I hadn't ruled that in or out of order.
No, I'm trying to say, but then if you're happy there, if you're happy to let me proceed on that, I'm not putting you in a spot.
I was going to take minutes to make a decision, but I hadn't ruled it in or out of order.
Well, you're the mayor, so it's your call.
So. Yeah, I'm going to allow from Councillor Ryan, we wouldn't normally discuss a judicial review in any shape or form. There's an opinion being offered here that expressing disappointment is not the same as discussing it, but I'm not really comfortable with that. So I am going to rule, I'm happy to take an amendment to the motion to put it into order.
I propose the amended motion, Mayor.
The seconded, so we to propose the amendment.
And seconded.
Seconded. Is the amendment agreed? So, Councillor Ryan.
In relation to the proposal to amend it by the mover of the motion, there's an also reference in the first sentence that in light of recent developments. So, effectively, that's referring to the JR. So that doesn't address the problem.
Councillor Gearin. So, Councillor Gearin, so it's not out of order. If anybody else wants to make an amendment, they can make an amendment. Councillor Humphreys?
Can you explain the process of amending a motion that you've now moved that is out of order? So surely if the motion is out of order, then there's nothing to amend.
Yeah, hold on, let me... Yeah, no, it's old. The motion was amended on that. I'm comfortable with what we've done here. I'm very happy with it. All right. So, no. So, yeah. So, Councillor. So, are we agreeing the amended motion? Not agreed. Are we agreeing to amend the motion? Not agreed. We call a vote. We need, I want to try and finish this in here, so that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So I'll propose to extend the meeting. I'll expose to extend the meeting until 20 to... minutes has been called. To Councillor Mulville doesn't agree to extend the meeting. I want to extend the meeting to 20, so we'll vote on that, please, first, before we take the discussion of the amended motion. I don't want a filibuster to result in this motion not being dealt with properly, and I'm sorry that it's going to take a bit longer, but I don't think that's reasonable. Thanks. Withdrawn by councillor Mulville. So we'll take the amended motion proposed by councillor Gearan, seconded by councillor Butler. Councillor Butler. Sorry, councillor Gearan.
I'd far rather not be bringing this. Some years back in this motion, I proposed a motion which has led, after a lot of work by a lot of members, to the Balumstone housing project going ahead. One of the biggest projects ever undertaken by this local authority, and a project that has already delivered homes and social and affordable homes built on council land. Phase 1 is nearing completion. Last Thursday, there was a meeting by DP Crossroads where a number of options were looked at, trying to put pressure on Fingal to secure further funding in relation to activities not related to Balumstone, looking for a cultural centre. The one outside the door is not near enough. There were 3 motions discussed at this meeting, at which 4 of our members, one from Sinn Féin, one from Labour, one from the Soc Dems and one from Fine Gael, attended. 3 of those members are on the committee, except the Sinn Féin one. And the motions that were discussed, the options that were discussed were, let's march on County Hall and protest to apply pressure for what we're looking for. Let's do an email campaign to the Chief Executive to apply pressure for what we're looking for. Or let's take a judicial review. And the judicial review will delay the housing so long in Balumstone we'll get what we need. So when I hear people talking about 15,286 homeless and 4,600 of them being children, or all the dealings that they're doing at their clinics, they're really concerned about housing or we're not opposed to housing, but. And that 4 councillors would allow a discussion and 3 be on a committee where they discuss, by the way, yes, we'll look at the option of a judicial review. What the meeting weren't told, the 120 people, was that the day before the meeting was held with the legal representative, go prepare your papers, get ready to lodge, and we'll use this.
Councillor Ryan.
Mayor, you ruled earlier that the clause at the end of this motion was inappropriate because of discussion in the JR. This is all about the JR.
Mayor, the discussion of judicial reviews is it's a headed item in the Chief Executive's report.
No, but
I'm
it's
not
not
expressing a review.
No, but
I'm not expressing an opinion on the right or wrong of the judicial review. I'm giving the background as to how it came about and why it came about.
We're still discussing the judicial review. I think we should be really careful, and we should not discuss the judicial review. I will be extremely careful because I know the type of groupings I'm dealing with. Believe me, I'll be extremely careful. Councillor Mulville.
Order 93. Councillor Gearan has made false statements and he's imputed improper motives against members of this council. I'd ask him to withdraw those statements, and I think it's highly inappropriate for him to do so. And I'm shocked actually for what I'm hearing from Councillor Gearan right now.
So I missed the imputation. But I'll ask Councillor Gearan to. Otherwise I would have called it, but I missed it. So yeah, please, yeah.
Last Thursday, there was no such meeting. He references motions at such a meeting. There was no such motions. He references he's suggesting that people have taken a judicial review for certain reasons, which are imputing improper motives. A judicial review has been taken in terms of planning advice received and planning grounds. It's absolutely shocking what he's saying here. So I think you should rule that out of order.
I'm going to ask you to respond to those.
I apologise.
Think about your response.
I apologise most profusely for stating that a motion was put to the floor. No such motion was put to the floor. It was actually reported to the committee as the actions they were taking. The floor, in fact, had no say. So I apologise for getting that incorrect. I do not withdraw what I say, that the intent of the discussion and the intent of the proposals they put forward was, in their words, to apply pressure. Now, I met with people from Dunnabate yesterday.
So, look, my
record is accurate.
Councillor Gearan, we don't have any minutes for any such meeting. You cannot come in here and talk about a meeting that members weren't weren't that.
I apologise. The members were at the meeting on Wednesday.
So,
well then, okay, Mayor. The facts are as follows.
So stick it to keep it to Balumstone. Keep it to Balumstone and the motion ahead of us, please. Otherwise, you're out of order.
Well, okay. Well, when I hear various parties talking about their concerns in relation to housing, I think their actions speak far louder. I think that emotion or that actions that were taken, which could delay the production of phase 2, to see the construction of much needed social and affordable homes for up to 2 years, being supported by members and not being opposed by members of this council who agreed Balumstone, is really and truly sad. And I would like that all the members here tonight fully support our executive in moving ahead as fast as possible with Balumstone. Thanks.
Councillor Butler. This and be brief. Yeah, no, listen, I'm extremely disappointed to hear that there's possibly going to be a significant delay to delivery of social and affordable housing in Fingal. I'd be extremely disappointed if this was being supported by councillors in this chamber. You know, the same parties that will be jumping up and down in Dublin Airport and giving out about the slow delivery of social and affordable housing. And here we have one of the biggest ones we're going to deliver in Fingal. And I really would be shocked if there are councillors supporting a delay in this delivery. I'd also like the Chief Executive to clarify what this will mean for the fantastic sports complex that is to be delivered for Donabate at this site. I believe that the funding for this comes from the social and affordable housing. So if the social and affordable housing is not delivered, well then that fantastic sports complex is gone. I believe that St. Edith's, St. Pat's, LSA, the athletic group are all deeply concerned about this and will be meeting on this issue as well. There was low density planning on this site over 10 years ago that was appealed and appealed and appealed, and it's now ended up in the situation we're at, where it's obviously a much higher density going in. But I would really be extremely disappointed if we're going to delay the significant delivery of social and affordable housing. And I'd like the Chief Executive to clarify what this would mean to the sports complex. Thank you. We've a proposed amendment to the motion. Can I see that amendment is proposed by Councillor Johnson and seconded by Councillor Walsh?
I think it is an amendment, the amendment.
It is an amendment, yeah.
I can't remember.
Councillor Murphy, while we're waiting here.
Mayor, again, I'd like to concur with my colleagues. I am astounded that we find ourselves in a position where a large quantum of houses are potentially could be delayed. I think when we sit in the chamber here and we go through LAP's master plans for putting forward proposals for good developments that can give good social infrastructure as well to communities, that this is the forum for that debate. This is the forum for change, and this is the forum to get elements of change within a proposal over the line, and to make sure that the areas and communities can have the infrastructure that is warranted within all of what we try to achieve. I'm disappointed that councillors, particularly councillors that were here during that debate. It was a very, very heavy debate on Balumstone. It's a large development, no doubt whatsoever about that. And I think we got through with a very, very good plan for the area. outside influence, you'll have to question all of the people who have the potential to buy an affordable house now could be denied that opportunity, because with the delay comes a cost, and that cost both to the community, the developer, the increase in material costs. The consequences of this are absolutely dire, and I think that we really have to be conscious about how we deliver our business in a local area. This is nothing more than NIMBYism and trying to arm wrestle Fingal County Council into a position to give something that wasn't agreed on the floor in the council. This is the democratic process that we abide by, we get elected to, and we should be delivering here the elements of good planning practice across Fingal in this forum. And anything that happens outside of that should be challenged at the highest and should be called out, particularly when councils are elected with a housing crisis in the country, and we have people purporting to support housing, and yet they do the opposite.
Thanks, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm a little bit in the dark about what's happened with it as regards that meeting, except what I've heard here this evening. I certainly recall at the Balumstone I voted in favour of the development, and I still do that, and as Councillor Kieran's motion says, I will continue to support that project and hopefully it gets underway as fast as possible. However, you know, some other councils may have other information, or maybe there's reasons for a judicial review, so I'd like to hear that as well before I give my final decision.
We'll not be discussing the judicial review. That'll be out of order, Councillor Newman. Sorry. Sorry, I wanted to allow people who are finished speaking. So we have an amendment proposed. So we'll move the debate to the amendment. The amendment has to be voted on or agreed. So we have a proposal from the... Hold on a second. Thanks. So we're now, before we continue to discuss the motion before the floor, there's a proposal to amend it, which is allowed under Standing Order 90. Standing Order 90 says that you can have a look at Standing Order 90. But that's Standing Order 90 says that you can. So if you can't turn it into a different motion. No, you can't turn it into a different motion. But let's have a look at the motion there. Provide a framework for a growing population. I don't believe that's a substantive change. I believe that's completely, and in relation to the Balumstone, I think it's a normal planning statement that is in line with the Balumstone development. It's just developing the motion. I don't think it's a substantial change whatsoever. So that motion, the amendment is before the floor. Is the amendment agreed? No. So we can either move to a vote, or people can. I think we should move to a vote on the amendment and allow discussions on it from there. Can we discuss it then, Paul? Yeah, absolutely. Just in the interest of time, we can. So, Councillor. You have to know what motion's on the floor. I can discuss the motion, though, the amendment first. Not unless it's agreed. Okay, sorry. Before the amendment can be discussed before the floor, we need to agree whether we're taking the amendment or not. So, is it agreed to take the amendment? No. Okay, no. So that's a vote. Okay, vote. The amendment is before the floor. We vote, please. So, are we ready? Yeah.
The results of the vote are green, yes 18, yellow abstain 3, red no 13.
So the amended motion is now proposed by Councillor Johnson and seconded by Councillor Walsh. Point, yeah.
Come back in here.
You can come back in and speak on this, but I thought you were finished. But Councillor Johnson, and I bear in mind time here, everybody.
Firstly, I'm absolutely outraged at some of the stuff that's been said here tonight by people who weren't even at a meeting last Wednesday night. Third-party rumours and misinformation about a public meeting that's actually quite a very positive public meeting. There was an awful lot of engagement from the public at that meeting. In terms of Donabate, I want to state categorically the Donabate Local Area Plan went through a public consultation process in 2011 and 2012. In 2016, the Local Area Plan was adopted by this council and by many councillors sitting in this room, I might add. The Local Area Plan was extended in 2022 for 5 years. I believe it'll lapse sometime next year. The Local Area Plan provides for 4,000 housing units in the LAP lands. Just to be very, very clear here, I am in favour of housing, but I'm also in favour of infrastructure. The Local Area Plan is clear that infrastructure must be provided in tandem with development. In terms of the Balumstone development, phase 1 of Balumstone of 432 houses is almost complete. In terms of 4,000 housing units, I want to remind the members here tonight, out of the 4,000 housing units to be delivered in Donabate, we're in a situation now where the majority of those housing units have either been granted permission or under construction, bar phase 3 in Balumstone. So Donabate is embracing the houses. We're fully in support of housing. But what I am not in support of is the Donabate Local Area Plan has a number of very clear objectives. And I might remind some of the members here tonight, myself and my fellow colleagues from Donabate, Councillors Mulville and Dockwell, we have had numerous motions put forward at Local Area Committee which has been supported by the members. And the objectives in the Donabate Local Area Plan in relation to community facilities, and particularly in relation to a multifunctional facility, is actually being reneged upon by Fingal County Council. They are the facts. It is very, very clear that the Council do not want to provide this facility. So I just want to be very, very clear here, for all those people jumping up and down here now saying that Donabate are anti-housing, that the council are anti-housing, and this group is anti-housing, it's absolutely outrageous. As I said, it's very, very clear there are houses under construction and already built. I'd also like to ask the Chief Executive to provide in writing. I have seen a copy of a letter sent the Chief Executive in 2021 from the Department in relation to site services funding. Now, hold on one second, sorry, Mayor. This is very important.
That's in order. I don't think that's in order.
No, sorry.
We're discussing this motion here. That's not directly asking the Chief Executive to produce it.
The reason I'm asking it is because Councillor Butler, that's the man. Okay, no, Councillor Butler alluded to, and I want confirmation of this. I've received confirmation, and Councillor Butler alluded to it. No, hold on one second here.
You've got 4 seconds left.
Yes, that the sports hub has been taken off the table. To me, that is a unilaterally horrific act by Fingal County Council that was today. And the councillors weren't even briefed on that.
Councillor Johnson. So, the Executive asked to come in to correct some or to make a statement.
With the Mayor in the room's indulgence, we'd be happy to put that letter up on the screen if you want to allow that. But just a couple of things I want to be very clear on in relation to the objectives of the Donabate Local Area Plan. And bearing in mind that it's a proportion of the units that have been delivered to date, and the development of Donabate will continue, I hope successfully over the coming years. Right now, in terms of Donabate and our investment and the delivery of the objectives of the LAP, the Community Centre and Library, a €4 million refurbishment of Donabate Portrane Community Centre is proposed in the Capital Plan 25 to 27. The library is relocating to Belisk House this year, and that frees up significant space in the community centre. The new library at Belisk House is a €1.9 million investment, the purchase and refurbishment of that building. That project is on site as we speak. My Open Library will be provided in that new library facility. That will mean that the building will be open beyond the standard opening hours of a library, providing the usual services that you would expect, including the meeting rooms that will be within the library. And just to say, within the capital programme, in addition to that, is an extension that's proposed for Belisk House. Balumstone Recreation Hub is a large-scale multi-million euro community and education campus. The education campus will be delivered in conjunction with the Department of Education. Typically, the sports hall associated with any new school in the county is used. We agree with that Department of Education and the local school to make it available to the community outside of school hours. It will also feature an all-weather pitch and an athletics track, and shared recreational facilities in the school, as I mentioned. Again, to be delivered as the population is in Donabate, because the school will get built to suit the population, and that's the responsibility lies with the Department of Education. That project recently commenced in terms of the delivery of pitches to the local clubs, because they will lose some facilities when we deliver the all-weather pitch. That's subject to funding. The funding is delivered through the Service Site Fund, which is associated with the delivery of housing, not the plan for housing, the actual delivery of housing. Infrastructure and green spaces, yearly investment. Ongoing projects include the upgrade and improvement of access to the 370-acre Newbridge House and Park. In relation to the access, a number of new accesses have opened in recent time, bringing the park to local areas. And just, sorry, Mayor, for your indulgence, projects that we talk about regularly include the Broadmeadow Bridge, greenways throughout the area, in line with the local area plan. Not all the work's done yet, not all of the work is on site yet, but the plan is well underway.
Councillor Mulligan.
Motion has been taken from me, and in fairness to Simon, I'd like to thank Councillor Johnson, because she has confirmed what I said. The local councillors are using this action to put pressure on the council. No, but I wanted to say it.
Councillor Mulligan. Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks for bringing this forward. I mean, the biggest issue in all aspects of planning and strategic infrastructure and development in this country, but particularly in Donabate, is infrastructure. If anyone has been in Donabate or spoke to anyone living in Donabate, they live constantly in homes at this present moment in time which could be left without electricity or power for hours on end daily. And it's a weekly occurrence, if not bi-weekly occurrence, of electricity outages and infrastructure issues. We're talking about an area that has a train that's full at peak times before it gets into the station. We have a privatised local bus link. We're an area that's grown 100%, and such basic infrastructure, which is not dealt with in planning applications. It's dealt with as part of a local area plan and as part of a framework for development by this council. Donabate needs a significant amount of investment in order to make such housing attainable and viable to live in, because at this moment in time, the current residents of Donabate would tell you, whilst it's a beautiful coastal peninsula and a fabulous area to walk around, it is absolutely deprived of the necessary infrastructure needed to make it grow in the way in which all councillors living in there and all the local residents living in there want it to happen. I would move to Dunnabate tomorrow if I could afford it, but I wouldn't be able to do that because I'd have to drive. The infrastructure isn't there.
Okay, so I have 3 speakers before. The last 2 that have come in, I'm not going to allow in. I'm going to extend the meeting by a further, propose to extend the meeting by 10 minutes until we get through this item. But I'm going to limit the number of speakers that are able to come in because otherwise we won't get it done. Okay, proposed, Councillor Mulville.
Thanks, Chair. Look, some pretty shocking inaccuracies have been made here, and attempts to impute improper motives against councillors, which is pretty terrible, I must say.
Sorry, I need to agree the proposal to extend the meeting by a further 10 minutes. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Seconded.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Look, I can't talk about a judicial review because obviously we're not supposed to be talking about it. Yet other people are talking about it. So it's a bizarre situation, really. But the key question I have, following on from Councillor Johnson's contribution there, local sports clubs seem to be under the impression that the contractor for the Balumstone Recreational Hub has been given an instruction by the council to cease works. That they were given an instruction today by the council officials to cease works. So I'm asking the county manager to confirm whether she's issued any instruction, or anyone on her behalf has issued any instruction to the contractor for the Balumstone Sports Hubs to cease any works, and if she's done so, what basis has she used to do that? Has she used a managerial order? Would she provide a copy of that? And myself and the other councillors will be writing to the county manager on this to seek clarification. But it's a very urgent issue, and we need urgent clarification from the county manager. Thanks.
Councillor Tormey.
Thank you very much. The Fine Gael group on the last term of the council voted in favour of the Balumstone project. We want to see homes built for people. That's why we voted in favour of that project. And as a party, we are a party of home ownership, about building more homes for people. I've only just found out about this during the Chief Executive's report. So I just want to reiterate that we are in favour of homes for people, social homes, affordable homes for people, and we're going to work with our councillor colleague who is lending a voice to the people of Dunnabate to see, what can we do here. But we need to get these homes built for people, and I just wanted to be very, very clear about that. Thank you.
Councillor Newman.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I won't go back on the judicial review. I didn't mention anything other than I didn't know about what it was about. Somebody thinking it was funny over there. Yeah, I've supported Jimmy Gearton's, Councillor Gearton's motion. The couple of amendments that were put to it have been kind of affirmed by the Chief Executive that the Dunnabate plan is being observed. And I may have got, I think that's what you said, I might be wrong there, But on that basis, I would support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
Put the motion up, please. Do you amend it? Yeah. Do you amend it? Can't see it. Okay, I'll put it to colleagues. Which of us could not support such a motion? Councillor Murphy referred to, isn't it awful that this is happening, or whatever. If there was something happening in Balbriggan where housing was being delivered without infrastructure, he'd be jumping up and down. Every member of the LAC, which includes Swords, Balbriggan, Lusk, every one of you who attended those meetings voted unanimously for a motion calling for what is being called for by the people of Dunnabate. Councillor Murphy, you voted for it. Everyone here voted for it. I voted for it, and it happened twice. So you all voted for what the people in Dunnabate are looking for, and you all spoke at length, saying how much they deserve it. And Councillor Mulligan was the only one of that group who was brave enough to say the same thing again and repeat it in here tonight, that people need that infrastructure. And people are dishonest if they go to one meeting and say this is what people in Dunabate need and come in here because of some political motivation behind it. Disgraceful.
Yeah. Councillor Dockrell. Councillor Dockrell.
Sure, yeah. Look, I just want to put on the record that I fully support the building of private, social and affordable homes. And if I was part of the last council, I would have also supported Balumstone. So just to be on the record, I'm extremely pro-housing. When I was at that meeting in the Shoreline Hotel, I spoke predominantly about the need for more affordable homes to allow my compatriots or people my age to return home to Dunabate and Portrane. But I'll also say that there's 3 councillors here who either grew up or live on the peninsula, right? We're the ones who know the area best. And if you're talking about the democratic process, we received a mandate on the doors over months of knocking, where the biggest issue that came up was community infrastructure. And that is predominantly what we talked about positively, okay? So the DP Crossroads group is a group that comprises dozens of music and cultural groups. And all they are fighting for is better community infrastructure. So it's divisive to say from members who don't know Dunabate and Portrane as well as we do that this was an anti-housing sentiment. I can assure you I'm on the record multiple times, including at that meeting, of being pro-housing in all kinds, social, affordable, everything. Thank you.
I'd cut off the contributions that Councillor Walsh, Councillor Murphy's already been in, and we'll leave that in the time. Councillor Walsh.
I'll be brief, Mayor, and I'll be the first to say that I know very little about Dunabate, so I'm just going to make 2 quick comments. I supported the Balumstone proposals when they came to the last council, and it was also there when we approved the local area plan. And what the amended motion does is something very simple. It says we're in favour of housing and we're in favour of infrastructure. And that's what we should all be supporting. It says that we're in favour of community-led, responsible planning. And all we're saying in this motion is that we're in favour of proper planning. And that's all. That's essentially all the amendment does. I fully support, as does the Labour Group, social affordable housing, housing mix and housing tenure. And we can do that, and we can do it with proper high-quality community infrastructure. And that's the message sent by that motion. That's all I have to say. Thanks, Mayor.
We've got 4 minutes to do this and conduct a vote. So 30 seconds I'll allow if that's okay, because I want to make sure we get a vote here and I'm not extending the meeting. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to respond to Councillor Ryan, I've had the luxury of being here for 10 years on the council. Development plans, LAPs, master plans, and I will never apologise for wanting the best for the area that I represent. That's what I got elected to do, and I'll do it. What's happening here in this forum, and this is this is the area to debate it, not outside, in here, get your business done. The problem we have now is about phasing, that none of the infrastructure that's been requested is being denied. It's just about the timing of it. That's the biggest substantive problem within this, and I think that there is misinformation, disinformation going around, and scaremongering, and that is causing major problems outside in the community. Thank you for the time, Mayor.
Councillor Smith.
Look, I want to get on the record as well. I fully support the housing there. I fully support the group's requests as well. And I think Sinn Féin has been fairly consistent in that. Similar to what Councillor Mulligan has said, we want to see adequate infrastructure within the area that supports the housing. That we're not here in another 10 years' time pulling our hair out because we literally can't meet the needs of the people in that area. A lot has been said today that has been incredibly inaccurate, and I'm going to be asking for a written apology on some of the inaccuracies. I think they're disgraceful. We had an motion that didn't get to tonight, which talked about making sure people brought accurate information here, and that hasn't happened.
Thanks. I'm going to bring in Mr. McAleese very briefly to answer some of the questions. And then we're going to put it to a vote.
Specifically, Councillor Mulville's question just in relation to a conversation that was had today. So again, I think it is very important just to clarify, and the letter that went up on the screen there from the department from 2021 clearly states that the 10 million that was agreed in principle is for 238 units. Those 238 units, affordable units, as the councillors who voted Balumstone through back in the day will know that they're pepper potted across all phases of the development. So at the minute, planning permission has only been granted for 796 units. We want to be able to go to tender for a works contract in April, but we have not contracted. There is no contractor appointed for Balumstone, so that's just very important to clarify. The capital programme shows that the entire funding for the Balumstone hub is funded through this funding from the service site fund. So the full 10 million is from
Mr. McAleese, time.
No, it is important just to make this
no,
point, Mayor.
time.
We cannot.
Mr.
We
McAleese,
cannot sign
time.
the contract. No.
Time.
We cannot enter into a contract to build Balumstone hub unless the funding is secured.
Time.
Okay?
You've
That
made the point. I've been putting the motion to the floor. Is it agreed? Is it agreed? Point of order.
I've never heard a mayor stop an executive or member of the management from speaking. There's no time limit on them.
So I agreed to bring them in on the basis of he knew he had a minute and he exceeded that minute, and we need to get the business done within the time. So the question has been answered briefly. It can't be, we're all equal in here. We want to put the motion to the floor. Is the motion agreed? Roll call vote. Roll call vote. Proposed to extend the meeting to take the roll call vote by 4 minutes. Agreed? Agreed. So the vote is on the amended motion. Green is yes, red is no.
The results of the vote are Green, yes, 28. Yellow, abstain 3. Red, no votes.
Motion agreed. I thank the members for your cooperation.